Hey, Dr. Singer, you got us all set up? Oh, great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, this is going to be a fun premiere. We're going to cover a lot of ground in this one. Let me get some other lights on. And you got the machine threaded up already? All right, let me get this other light on. I've got some new green specs. I'm going to show these to you. But I got to clean them real quick. They're real dirty. I like this music. This is stomping music. Well, welcome everybody to another premiere. We're going to be showcasing, it's kind of a Slant-O-Matic smorgasbord with the main entree, the main meal being Gloria's amazing 401A. You get us going here officially. What do you think, Dr. Singer? Yeah.
Green.
All right, let's zoom in on this a little bit and see what we got going on. Yep, those are the, so the white one here that you can see is not looking super fantastic great, is what Gloria sent that the machine was doing initially. Not absolutely outrageously bad, but, and red doesn't show up real well sometimes, but we kind of turn it over. Yeah, it's not looking real balanced. So I'm going to throw that to the back. This is what I did off camera to kind of get us to this phase. It's a combination of primary stitch patterns, a couple of combination patterns, and then just some good old basic straight and zigzag stitching. So you can see our other side lock stitch is looking really spot on as well. So I'm going to throw that to the back. This is what we've done off camera already, just to kind of get to this phase of the premiere. Again, there's a lot of prep work in getting up to this point where we're finally ready to premiere and showcase a great machine like this, this 401A that belongs to Gloria from the great state of Georgia. And if you're not familiar with this particular model, the 401A, it's the only Slant-O-Matic that comes with a larger motor. It comes with a 0.9 amp motor, which peaks at 1 amp, versus the other Slant-O-Matics that come with a 0.54 amp motor and they peak at 0.6 amps. What's the big deal? We're talking about 0.4 of an amp difference, right? That's huge. You're basically talking about the difference between sewing with a machine that has a motor comparable to the 201-2, which also peaks at 0.6, or the 1591, which also peaks at 0.6, versus a machine like you're looking at on screen right now that belongs to Gloria from Georgia, that is the combination power of a 201-2 peaking at 0.6 amps and a featherweight. So you got to put those two machines together, a 201-2 and a featherweight, to equal the power of this 401A. That's grit, folks. That's gusto. That's power. So really a fabulous machine. And these 401As were made from 1956 to right around 1961. And based on the serial number, Gloria's is going to be around from the calendar year of 1958. So great year to be born. Great year to be born! Which is what this machine was at that time. A little baby. Pretty much looked the same, but hey, let's be dramatic. Why don't we, okay? So we're going to do a variety of different sewing with this 401A. And most of the decorative stitching that we do is going to be on leather, because it just raises the stakes a little bit higher. You know what I mean? We like challenges, right, Dr. Singer? Well, maybe not all the time, but sometimes we do. So let's just jump right into some sewing with this 401A. Let's just jump right into some sewing. Let's not goof around. and then we'll highlight some of the other areas that we wanted to highlight in this premiere. Premiere. So first thing we're going to sew is some genuine elkite, and if you're new to this channel, let me just say that it's the thick of thick. This is what we're going to be sewing right here. Once I turn my screen around, then I can see what you're seeing. 4 to 5 ounces of genuine elkite, the thick of thick, and we're going to buzz down with a straight stitch. And I'll show you all the setting stuff and everything afterwards, after we get done with our sewing. I'll show you how it's done. So we'll start with this, 4 to 5 ounces of genuine elkite, and we'll see how Gloria's machine does with this task. Again, elkite is chemically processed, so it makes it a little bit tougher than tough when it comes to sewing. All right, are you ready? I'm ready. Here we go. And you can hear that machine working a little bit. That is not a light, easy sew-off at all for any machine. And where are my clippers? My clippers are MIA. There they are. But this 401A from 1958 is very much up to the task after spending about 14 hours on the workbench through different phases, as you'll see through the Facebook pictures that I'm going to share with you. I know a lot of you don't do Facebook, so we're going to cover those in this premiere as well. Now here's our top stitch. Beauty of leather is you kind of know which side is the top stitch if you somehow lose track of the material, drop it or whatever. You're able to tell straight away that that is the top stitch that we just laid down. Let's take a look at it closer up. So what we're looking for is integrity of stitch. And also a balanced tripod. I'm going to spread these legs out a little bit more. They're a little bit tilty. Hold on a second. There we go. So once again, we're looking at about, you can see from the top there, about 4 or 5 ounces. This camera's just drifting all over the place. Come on, calm down, buddy. Calm down. Calm down. Don't get violent. So you can see from the top, we're dealing with some real thick material. 4 to 5 ounces of genuine elkite. And Gloria's 401A just did a beautiful job of laying down a gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous top stitch. Spacing, formation, integrity of the stitch is exactly as we want to see it. Exactly as we want to see it through material like that. We come out on the shot a little bit and look at the totality of the stitching. You can just see how it presents. It presents beautifully. And we're going to turn it around and take a look at that lock stitch. Again, if you're new to sewing or to this channel and you haven't heard this before, the lock stitch is always going to be the tougher of the two stitch outputs because you're working against gravity. The machine is having to suck that thread, pull that thread up through this incredibly dense elkite. And that's a lot more difficult than the top stitch, which you just drive the thread and the needle down through the material. Here you're having to drive it through, but then you're having to pull it all the way back up again. And I'll let you be the judge. I'm seeing a drop-dead gorgeous lock stitch as well. I try to keep the camera still, but it's acting real finicky today. Hold on a second. Let me loosen that up a little bit. It's acting real finicky today, so I'm having a lot of trouble kind of moving it smoothly. Beautiful stitching. Top stitch, lock stitch is just exactly as it should be. You can see the totality of the stitching as well is just absolutely spot on. So a pass as far as this heavy grade elkite, this genuine elkite. I'm going to throw that to the back. And also, if you already saw the decorative output that I did off camera. Just a beautiful job. And these are all the, I'll just show you real quick. These are all the additional stitch offs that I did off camera, getting ready for this premiere. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes in order to get to a point where I feel like we're ready for a premiere like this. So these are all decorative stitch outputs that I did, testing top stitch, lock stitch through 2 layers of cotton blend. Absolutely spot on, looks great. Here we were kind of in the beginning phases, and there was some issues with stitch formation and quality. Decorative, I started to do different output tests, and I labeled them with the letters as well, so I know which one I did first, and I can make adjustments accordingly. You can kind of see that on top there as I'm going across through the decorative outputs. So this is all the stuff that happens before you ever get to this phase of joining me for a premiere. And you know, if you're comparing it to what other people do to prep their machines, my approach is obviously significantly more detailed, both in the preparation and the presentation. So let's jump into some decorative sewing, and I'm going to try to show you how I kind of set this up. Actually, let me show you something first, because this is important to give you a context. So right underneath this little lid right here, Singer came up with a real nice quick reference. I always take my spool of thread off because otherwise it'll fall off if I tilt it back. That's the only flaw of this design, is when you're opening this up, you got to take the spool of thread off if you're going to use it as a reference in lieu of the, say, the owner's manual. So you can see we've got a number of things. If I kind of zoom over that, zoom over to that, it goes and gives you a number of different guiding points. Everything from up here, kind of underneath the edge of the lid. You can't read the top line, but it says basically for straight stitching, set the machine to AK3. A is going to be the left part of this control that's controlled by the brown knob. K is going to be the white knob that you see controlling the right side. And that's what kind of intimidates people a little bit about the 401A, is there's a kind of a little space shuttle feeling to it, as far as it being a little bit more complex, at least initially. Then they've got settings for straight stitching for twin needle, primary stitch patterns with twin needle. On the upper right, they've got primary stitch patterns, and you have to be mindful that they also give you settings as far as what they are calling the width settings, which is controlled by this red lever right here. This is your stitch width. It's also needle position as well to some extent. And you have to be mindful when you're sewing the different patterns, whether it's primary stitch patterns or whether it's the secondary stitch patterns down on the bottom that they're referring to as combination patterns. Because if you don't set the stitch width correctly with that little red lever, you'll get some weird outcomes. So for primary, we want to set it with a stitch width of less than 5. With the combination patterns on the bottom, we're going to be setting it with a stitch width of 3 with the red lever. You can see that right there. So we're going to be sewing a combination of both of those patterns, and I've already written them down on a separate little sheet of paper. So I have a cheat sheet, because I'm not going to memorize them all. There's no way. You know what I mean? So let me close that lid again, get the thread back up there, and we'll jump into some of those decorative sew-offs right away. And I'll have a wider shot so you can kind of see what I'm doing in changing things. Plus, part of the setting has to also be our stitch length, which is this controller right over here. And the stitch length on this 401A is anything from 6 stitches per inch all the way down to the fine region. That's right over here, which is going to get you into that 25 to 30 stitch range per inch. So, I mean, super fine. We're talking satin type level sewing. But that's where you're going to be setting it for most of these stitch patterns. So I'm going to adjust that right away so I don't forget. I'll kind of move it up and then lock it in right around in that range, just short of the satin range. The satin range. I'm not talking a different language here, I think, maybe. You just kind of screw that in to lock it into place, and that way it's less likely, hopefully, to move on you. So lock that into place. We'll leave that alone. And since we're going to be focusing first of all on primary stitch patterns, we've got a little bit of latitude. We can adjust this between anywhere 0 and 4. We can't go to 5 on it. So we're going to adjust it right up to about 4 in that range. And then we have to do something with these two knobs over here. So I've got to widen my shot and show you those two knobs. So again, the brown one is going to control the settings on the left. The white one is going to control the settings on the right. So what we have to do is we have to look at my little cheat sheet, which is telling me the first primary pattern that we want to sew has to be BL. BL. So this one has to be changed on the left from A, where we had it, over to B. Then the white one has to be changed to change the setting on the right from all the way down on K up to L. So I'm just going to move it up 1. All right, so we should be good to go there. And you might say, okay, what are we going to do these decorative sew-offs on? Are we going to use cotton blend like you did in the off-camera stuff? Something like this? Or are we going to raise the stakes? Well, why don't we raise the stakes and see if we can lay down this decorative stitching on some genuine cowhide like this. We're talking probably about 3 ounces of cowhide, and we'll see how this 401 can handle that. It is definitely not easy when you're talking about needle swing through these decorative sew-offs. So let's get down to the needle, and we'll give this 401 a chance to show her stuff doing some super hard sewing through genuine cowhide. And also we'll put on a little bit of background music because I like music. And this is all Southern style music, Southern flavor I should say. That's a little too loud. So the first one we did is called Grange Party. The second one is called Thinking Back. This is called Thinking Back. It's real soft in the background, just as a little bit of a background sound to the workshop. Alright, so this first one we're going to do, again, is it's a primary pattern and it's BL settings. So let's see. And actually, you know what? I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the color of the thread. I don't know if this is going to work or not. It might be a little bit too light. Let's do 1 stitch off on this leather and see how we're able to see it. If we can't see it, then I'll have to grab a darker leather. I really like this cowhide stuff, but it may not work because of the thread color I picked. Alright, so here we go. First pattern, BL, right? Is that what I said? Yep, BL. Here we go. I think that'll work. I think that'll work just fine. Yeah, it's just contrasting enough because the thread is not a true, the thread is not a true white. It's kind of an off-white. So it's got just enough contrast. The only thing we're going to really suffer with is trying to see this. That lock stitch is going to be really tough to see. We'll do our best with it. We'll do our best. Okay, so let me get this set up for the next sew-off. We're going to do a couple of these. We'll do a bunch of these. Just see how the 401 does. So we did BL, I'm sorry. Now we're going to do BM. And not like yucky BM, like, oh boy, somebody did something nasty. This is going to be BM like the stitch pattern, primary stitch pattern. So we're just making a change to the upper right one, which I will show you, because repetition is the key to learning. Yeah, you can see that okay. See what we just laid down? That's our first one right there. So what we're going to change now is our first one again. Here, let's do this. We're not going to do anything with our stitch width. We're not going to do anything with our stitch length. This is going to stay the same. This is going to stay the same. So we're just going to widen the shot a little bit so we can look at it kind of like this. That way you can be a part of me making changes as well. Yeah. And then we'll zoom in on it at the end so you can see what we sewed. See sew. All right. So our next one now, we are on B and L. Now we need to go to BM, so we're going to change this one, which is controlled by the white knob, pulling it out, and we're just going to go up one click to M. That's it. That's what I'm saying. Initially it's a little bit daunting, but as you get into it, it's a little bit less intimidating as you kind of develop a rhythm with this 401A. All right, so let's do this next one and see how this 401A. Yeah, I love this thread from Joann Fabrics, but it's just got a weird little staticky thing about it. All right, so here's our BM stitch pattern from the primary stitch patterns for this 401A. Here we go. All right. Come on up there, buddy. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that it's presenting well. I might just have to shorten that a little bit. We'll have to see. But again, we're sewing on leather, so we're not going to get the same type of definition on this leather that we will on a cotton blend type material. We could sew the same thing and it would look very, very different. Okay. So we've done BL, we've done BM, and now we're going to try BN. So the B is going to stay pretty much static, and now we're going to try doing a change on this side, going from BM to BN. That's it. Boom. All right. So let's see how we do with this one. It's our next decorative sew-off. With this genuine cowhide. Here we go. And again, I'm not going for speed, folks. I'm not going for speed. I'm just a fraction of the way down on that foot controller. We're not going for speed. We're going for testing the stitch pattern and looking at stitch quality. That's what our focus is. That's what our focus is. And again, since we have some discretion on that stitch width with this particular pattern, as long as we're less than 5, so we could go 1, 2, 3, or 4, the look of my stitch pattern output is going to be different than what yours might look like on your 401A, because you might choose a different stitch width. You might also choose a different specific setting within that satin range. You might be less, you might be more, and so the look of that stitch is going to be different. So we just did BN, now we're going to do BO, kind of like body odor. BO, we'll see how that looks. And all I did was just change that the right side by pulling out the white knob, which is the same knob we're going to pull out when we insert a plastic cam into this machine as well. That's really important to know. If you don't pull this out when you're inserting that plastic cam like this, then it's not going to seat all the way in, and you're either going to damage your machine or it's going to scare you to death when it pops out of that cam stack because it gets displaced by the movement of the machine. All right, so let's do BO now and see how this stitch pattern looks. And I've done a lot of sewing on this needle, so hopefully we make it through to the finish line. Here we go. Here we go. And again, I'm not going for speed. We're not going for speed. There's no speed test here. You know, eventually I'm going to hammer it. I won't be able to resist it any longer. I'm kind of holding myself back now because we have a lot of needle swing and play. We're sewing 3 to 4 ounce cowhide leather here, genuine cowhide, and I'm not wanting to break a needle or have something else wonky happen on a live premiere. So I'm showing self-control. Showing self-control, which doesn't always happen. It does not always happen. All right, let's get that back up there. So we just did BO. almost feel like B-I-N-G-O. We just did B-O, and now we're going to change again, and we're going to go to BP. BP. Now, since you've seen me do this a couple of times, what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to move it to BP, and then I'm going to take our shot down to the needle so you can follow it instead of being distant like this. I know you're probably getting a little bit anxious. So we did BO, now we're doing BP. We're going to move this up one click. Let it lock into place. And now I'm going to zoom in on the needle so you can watch the needle swing. And you'll see why I'm kind of taking it a little bit easier. You can see already what we've sewn. Doesn't that look cool? That looks super cool. So now we're going to let you follow it down at the needle instead of following it from afar. All right. So our next stitch pattern, again, is going to be BP, kind of like the gas station. All right, here we go. Once I get my take-up arm all the way up. Here we go. Well, if you can't hear it, that thing is running just silky, silky smooth. And I love the smell of this leather. Boy, I wish we had smell-o-vision where you could smell this leather through the device that you're viewing this premiere on. Because this is, Boy, that's got a nice, I just love this. Anybody else really love the smell of leather? If you do, type in the chat, I love leather smell. Or I could sniff leather all day long. I'm not looking to get weird here, but leather really is a little bit addictive. You know what I mean? When you're sniffing leather and you're in like a leather shop and everything around you is leather, it's just like, oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so now we're doing, we did BP, now we're doing BQ, I believe, if I read that correctly. So off camera, I'm just adjusting the right control area with the white knob by kind of pulling it out. And now we're on BQ. BQ. All right, here we go. You heard me speeding things up a little bit there. I wanted to give it a little bit more gusto. Okay, so that was BQ, and what do I have? I got BR is my last one of primary patterns. After doing BR, we will have done all the primary patterns that this 401 has. Which, I mean, that's quite a bit of sewing, folks, already. That's quite a bit of sewing. Plus, we already did the genuine elk hide as well. Let's see here, give that a clip. And another clip. These are some real neat patterns, the primary ones. I think Singer had a wise choice in how they selected these primary patterns, the ones that they're anticipating people will probably use the most. You know what I mean? Probably anticipating folks will use these the most. Okay, so we got to make our final change. Again, with the white knob, I'm pulling it out. I'm moving this from BQ to BR. And this is our last primary pattern that is built into this Singer 401A. Again, there's an important distinction. The 401A, like the 500A, have both engineered cams through a cam stack in them that generate all of these stitches, plus you can add on top of that the plastic cams in addition. So really a lot of choice as far as the versatility of the machine. Okay, so we're on our final stitch, BR. We just get our take-up arm up and we'll buzz down on this last stitch. Here we go. had to speed up a little bit, but I'm still only, gosh, I'm only 20% maybe, 25% of the way down. So there's a lot of reserve power. Again, a 0.9 amp motor. Again, you'd have to take a Singer 201-2 and a featherweight to equal the power of this 401A. Well, I just totally goofed that up. That thread did this little curly whirly thing on me, and I went to pull it back and I just tied a knot in it basically. So that takes a little bit of skill. Maybe. All right. So we've done all the primary patterns that Gloria's 401A can sew. We did BL, we did BM, we did BN, BO, BP, BQ, BR, and there you go. So now we'll see if we can, the combination patterns are basically taking more than one stitch and combining them, which means the intricacy of them is even more intense. So we'll see what we can do with this. Again, we're sewing 3 to 4 ounces of genuine cowhide with a lot of needle swing. And I'm not sure how well this needle that's already gotten a lot of use, and we've already worked it quite hard, is gonna do. And remember, the change we have to make with the combination patterns is we don't have that range allowance on the stitch width, that little red lever. Let me show you that again. We don't have the discretion with the combination patterns. Where are we? Blah. We don't have the discretion on the combination patterns to take that red lever that you're looking at right now below 5. We have to be on 3. Primary pattern, we can be anywhere between 1 and 4. Combination patterns, we have to be on 3, is what it's telling us. So we've got to move that. Stitch length is going to stay exactly the same near the satin range. And then we've got to make some adjustments up here, which you've already seen me do that. Again, on the right side, which is controlled by the white knob, we're going to be going between special, which is for plastic cams if you insert them into the machine, all the way down to K. On the other side, you can just barely see it. We're going to be going from A all the way down to, what is it, I? H, I, all the way down to J. All the way down to J on the left side. And that again is controlled by the brown knob. The J is kind of tucked behind the brown knob, is why I couldn't see it. So now we're going to be targeting combination patterns, which is even tougher than the primary patterns. And you've seen me make changes. I'll do changes on the first pattern, and then I'll keep us down at the needle so you can watch all that needle swing. It's just crazy how much needle swing this 401A is generating through these patterns. So the first combination pattern we're going for is EO. EO. So I'm going to have to push the brown one in first and take us from B all the way down to E. And as usual, make sure that your needle is clear of the material when you make any changes to the machine, okay? And now we have to pull the white one out, and we have to change it from R all the way down to O. LMNO. There we go. So with that, we should be ready to sew this next pattern, which again is going to be a fairly intense pattern that this machine is going to be executing. So I'll take you down to the needle so you can watch that needle swing and just watch what it's doing. And also you can take a peek at some of the ones that we've already done over here. And again, yours might look totally different based on the choices that you make as far as the stitch length. And on the primary patterns, when you have some discretion in what you're going to do with that stitch width, it will change the look of your stitch. I've made certain choices, you can make certain choices, and the result is we'll get different stitch pattern outputs, and that's okay. I'm going to grab a quick little swig of soda, and we'll keep on marching forward. And you've had an opportunity to hear this machine running a lot, and just hear how beautifully Gloria's machine is running. So I'm going to put a little bit of music on soft in the background. So we had Grange Party, we had Thinking Back, And now we're going to put on Country Fried. It's probably Dr. Singer's favorite song. I might be exaggerating a little bit. All right. So this is Country Fried, and this is our first combination stitch pattern. All right, here we go. That's some pretty intense needle swing, folks. Wait until you see this pattern close up. It's crazy. And again, all of these patterns that we've sewed so far are engineered into this 401A. They are not from one of the plastic cams. They're all coming out of that cam stack that eventually you'll see, if we have time, you'll see it in the Facebook shots that I posted. All right, I think we're going to do one more combination pattern, and then that's going to be it. Because we've got a lot more ground to cover, and you've already seen it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will be the 9th decorative stitch, the second combination stitch, and then we did 6 primary, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 primary stitches as well. So now we're changing it from EO to EP. So the E is going to stay the same on the left, but we've got to change the one on the right from O to P. There we go. All right, let's give this one a go too. See how this 401A does. Again, this is a lot of needle swing for going through about 4 ounces of genuine cowhide. A lot of needle swing. All right, here we go. Oh, I like that one. That's fun. That's a fun one. It's like a building block one. I don't know if I should have drunk that soda or not. It's got caramel in it. You know, soda has caramel, and it coats your throat, and then it kind of goofs you up a little bit. I probably shouldn't have done that. But it sure tasted good going down. I sure like soda. I truly do. All right, so let's do the... I said we were going to stop there. Maybe we'll just squeak one more out. Let's just squeak out one more combination pattern. And then between combination and primary, we will have done, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We will have done 10. That's a good even number, I think. And certainly Gloria is going to try all of these when she gets this machine safely back in Georgia. So, so let's see. We just did EP. Now we're going to do... do FL or FM. FL or FM. So we're going to have to change both knobs now. The brown one I'm changing from E to F. And again, make sure your needle is clear of the material. And now I'm going to change the other one from P over to L. And we'll give this stitch pattern a chance as well. And this again is going to be one of the combination patterns. So our stitch width, which is the red lever, has to be at 3. You can't have any discretion again with these combination patterns like you do with the primary ones. All right, let's give this one a try. And this may be our last one because that's a nice even number to stop on. Here we go. Yes, I sped up at the end a little bit, but I was still only giving it just a fraction of the power that it has. Oh my gosh, this thing has so much power. Again, we're talking about the power equal to a 201-2 and a featherweight combined. I mean, that's saying something, folks. That's saying something. That is saying something. I'm just having so much fun, I don't know if I want to stop. It's like an addiction. I just want to see what this one looks like. I just want to try one more pattern. Just one more pattern, Mommy, please. Just 5 more minutes, Mom. Please. Okay, so that was FL, and now we can do FM. Why don't we try FM, and that'll be our stopping point, maybe. FM. All right, here we go. Oh, I see that, what that's kind of looking like, yeah. Again, we're not going to have quite as much definition on leather using this thread type and needle type and all that as we would if we were sewing on cotton, like with a stiffener, like a stabilizer type filler on it to give it a little bit more stability. But we're getting some real good stitch output on this. I'm liking this a lot. I just keep pushing this 401 that belongs to Gloria. I mean, we're having so much fun with this. So that was what, FM? How about GN? GN is our next one. So I'm going to widen this shot again just to reinforce again what we're doing. The next pattern we're doing is GN, I think I said. Focus right on that because we're not touching the other stuff. All right, stay there, camera. Stay there. Be good. All right. So the last pattern we just did is FM. Now we're changing it to GN. And again, this is all in that quick reference on top. I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. So I have to push my brown one in to change it from F to G. So I'll move it one click down, basically. And then I have to pull my white one out to get the N, because right now I'm on M. So on the brown one, we had to go down one, and on the white one, we have to go up one. Yeah. So I'm going to pull the white one in, rotate it up, and then we're on N. So now we're on GN, which is our next combination pattern that I wrote down on my little paper. Right, let's see how this one looks. And hopefully our needle holds out. All right, here we go. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it almost looks like a blind hem, but it's not. It's kind of a different looking blind hem style stitch. That's kind of fun. So you get a little bit of an idea already of what we've sewn. Wait, no you don't, because I forgot to move the camera! Jiminy crickets! I haven't done that for a while. For a couple of premieres anyway. And I was so excited about that. I was going to show you, hey, look at what we did so far, hey! So this is kind of a field look at what we've already sewn. Aren't those fun? You see why I'm a little bit addicted right now? I'm like, I don't know if I want to put this away yet. I don't know. I don't know. But I know this. I know that you would prefer probably to be down by the needle instead of looking at the knobs. Yeah, I saw your fingers shaking, Dr. Singer. I saw it. I saw it! Hey, we got to build a little bit of suspense, right? Build a little bit of suspense, but hopefully not anger. A little bit of suspense among our friends. They're like, it's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. Yeah, it is. All right, so let's get this back into position. Get that down. Check my shot. Yeah, that's a pretty good shot. Yeah, because you can see the other one's kind of in the shot as well, which is kind of fun. All right, so what did we just do? GN, right? GN, yep. So now we have HL. HL is the next one we could do. So I'm changing the brown one from G to H. One click down. And L. So we're going to go down 2. All right, let's give this stitch pattern a try. Again, this is one of our combination patterns that's built into the machine. Combination pattern built into the machine. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's almost like kind of a, it's kind of a building block, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And it's gonna, some of these are gonna have similar looks because they're what? A combination pattern. So it's taking more than one stitch and combining them. So you'll see similarities even from some of the primary ones that we did. So all right, so we just did, what did we do? HL? Yeah, HO. Now we have HO, so we're going to leave the left one the same. And we're going to change the right one from L to O. All right, let's see what this one looks like. I've almost run out. I'm almost run out my sheet. I have one more after this. It's JM. We might as well sew that too and just say we did the entire page, right? All right, here we go. This needle's got to be getting tired. This needle's got to be getting tired just a little bit. Even though it's a Schmetz needle, it's like, hey, you see what we sewn? In fact, that's probably a good idea. I can recap real quick right now what we've already sewn on this needle. It's like, yikes. But hey, it's a Schmetz. What do you expect? What do you expect from a Schmetz? A lot. At least I do. And I've got to leave a little bit of room because I promised Gloria that I would demonstrate one of the plastic cam stitches too, although they're not nearly as intricate as these. I think these are really super cool when it comes to showing you the complexity of what the cam stack is able to generate. So, all right, our last stitch, the last one I've written down anyway. I kind of show you on the paper. This is my paper. I don't know if you can see anything on there or not. Probably not. There it is. So those are all the little things I wrote down, and the last one I have is the JM. So we're going to do JM. We already did all these on top. So I'll adjust the left one from H down to J. And then adjust the right one, which again is the white knob that you pull out, from O to M. We'll do this last we'll do this last combination pattern, and then I'll show you how to set it up for using the plastic cams. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, I'm glad I picked that one. That's a cool one. That's very cool. Yeah, these vertically mounted motors on the Slant-O-MATIC models are super fantastic, but they also require a lot of specialized maintenance. And they do have some failure points that sometimes require repairs as well. Remember my friend Maddie from Florida? She had sent Ebony, that black, I don't remember, it was a 301 or 301A, it was one or the other. And that had motor issues. And that does happen when you mount a motor vertically, as it stresses that motor just a little bit more than it otherwise would. Okay, so let me change the shot a little bit. I've got the leather set up underneath the presser foot, but now I want to show you how to do a sew-off using one of the plastic cams. And Gloria had sent me 4 cams, I believe. I might also have one in the machine already. So I'm going to widen this shot quite a bit, just so we can look at a couple of things happening. Right about there is probably good. So again, you have to be careful when you're inserting one of these plastic cams, because there are some little actuator reader arms inside of here that as soon as you move this white knob from the setting that it's on right now it's on M, and we need to move it all the way to the top where the word special is written. Special is going to be for cam, plastic cam generated sewing. So I've got to pull that white knob out and rotate it all the way to the top. And always make sure it goes all the way in, because sometimes they'll stick a little bit. These get gummed up very easily through operation of the machine, and when you do a service, there's probably, gosh, there's got to be 30 points of service within this region right here that allows these to move as freely as you've seen them move during this premiere. So we moved it all the way up to special, which is telling the machine that we're going to be using one of these now. Up until this point, we've only used what's engineered in the machine. So the first thing I'm going to take off is my little spool of thread. I'll set it down on the bed temporarily and open up our lid. Now what some people make the mistake of doing is they open up the lid and they go to stick this on, because there's an opening right here. How hard can it be? There's an opening right there, and there's a matching little post that you slide it over, but you've got to free up those reader arms that are extended now that we turned it to the special setting. That happens as soon as you take that white knob and you rotate it to the special setting from anywhere else. There's two little reader knobs that will read this cam that all of a sudden stick out. And if you try to force this past them, you're either going to damage the cam or the machine. And if you somehow manage to kind of get it in there but not get it in there, as soon as you hit that foot controller, this thing is going to get abruptly twisted and it's going to make a horrible sound. I've told people about this through notes, through emails, texting, and other thing like that, and trying to describe it to them. Some of them listen, some of them don't, and then they circle back and they go, yeah, that was a horrible sound. I said, well, why did you even do that? We go, because I forgot, and blah, 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 blah. So pull the white knob out towards you like you're going to make a change setting, but you're not. You're going to leave it on the special setting. Pull it out, and then what that does is it retracts the little readers that are inside of there. Okay? So I'm going to pull this, retract them, then I'm going to put the cam into place. Oh, I can't. I didn't look closely. I'm on Minute Maid or something like that. I already have a cam in there. I even said that. I said, well, maybe I already have a cam in there, but I'm like in auto mode and I'm teaching and I want to blah, 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 blah. So let's do this. Let's remove the cam that's in there. Oh my gosh. Hey, what happens on a live premiere stays on a live premiere, right? So now there actually is no cam in there. I mean, I hadn't even really looked. Or maybe I looked and, oh yeah, these glasses are dirty. These reader glasses are really, really dirty. So let's zoom in on that a little bit more, so that you can say, hey Scott, there's already a cam in there, buddy. There's already a cam in there. So now if we want to put a cam in, and I'm trying to decide which cam we're going to sew, or maybe we'll sew more than one cam. Let's see. Let's do this one. It's a cool little arch thingy going on. Turn my screen around so you can see it. Where are you? There we are. See that? It's almost like a little, I don't know if that's focusing or not. Yeah, you can kind of see it now. See how it's like an arch? It's like a cool little arch. So let's try this one. Now that we don't already have a cam in the machine. So most people will hopefully follow this direction and they won't try to force it, because right now there are some little arms extended out. So if we try to just put it on like this and force it on, it's going to go part way on, but it's not going to be all the way down, and you're not going to hear it click into place. So we pull the white knob out like so, and now we can slide it into place and it snaps in place, and then gently release this so those little reader arms will then go back in and make contact with that plastic cam that we just put in. Okay? So now we're set up for success. Sort of, kind of, maybe, hopefully, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know after trying to put a cam on top of a cam. That's kind of weird. But at any rate, we figured it out, right? We figured it out. Oh, Lordy. That's fun. The one thing you learn through developing a channel like this over as many years as I've had, and now we have 1,000+ videos on the channel, is that it doesn't always go right the first time. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. So we've got the cam in. We've got the white knob set on special, which is where it needs to be. And now we need to bring the brown knob all the way to the top, either to A, B, or C. It can be on any one of those. So I'm just going to go with A. Actually, I'm on B. There, now I'm on A. And when it comes to this stitch width, this little knob right here in the middle, can you see that? Yeah, I think it's off camera. The little red lever thing. The little red lever, as they refer to it on the cheaters thing. That one right there. We're just going to leave that on 3 for right now. We're going to leave that on 3. So we've got a cam in. Now we've got to get our thread back set up and everything. Come out on this shot a little bit. Close our lid. Get our thread back up. And we will try sewing one of these cams as well. Gloria had actually sent these under separate covers, so since she went to the effort of getting them to the workshop so I could test them, I'd like to try to at least, once you test one cam and it functions properly, all the other cams are engineered exactly the same way, so they're going to do exactly the same thing unless they're damaged in some way. So I'm not going to probably sew all 5 cams that Gloria sent, but I'll sew as many as I can fit on this leather, if that's fair. Which is probably 1, 2, probably 3 of the cams. The one that's in there and then 2 additional. All right, so let's give this cam a go. And we will see what we see. I'm just going to adjust our stitch length a little bit off camera. I'll make it a little bit less intense. And let's give this a try. All right, here we go. I won't say let's see what happens, because that always is a little bit scary, isn't it? A little bit. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, I said it anyway. All right, we made it down. Hey, yay. Remember I told you it was like a little arch? See that little arch? See what we just made? Yeah, that's kind of fun. Maybe that's how McDonald's started, huh? You never know. The golden arches. There's a sewing story behind everything. Absolutely. There's a sewing story behind everything. All right. So a quick impromptu contest. Type in the chat what the year bracket was. I've already told you this. What the year bracket was for the 401A. When did they make it? When did they make the 401A? What years? Type it in the chat. I'm only going to give you a few seconds or so to guess this based on your knowledge and experience. And all of that's jazz. All right. So while you're typing in the chat what years you think they made the 401A, I'm going to set us up for the next plastic cam sew-off. And I'll adjust the shot a little bit so you can, let's see what our shot is right now. Yep, I'll adjust the shot. Okay, so we've got that one cam in there right now. We've established that now. There's a cam in there, Scott. Did you know that? So we're going to open our lid. We're going to remove the cam, and I just do it by habit. I pull the white knob out to remove them as well, just so I don't somehow bump those little reader arms that are inside of there. So pull your white knob, lift your cam straight up, pull it out, release that, set this to the back so I don't end up sewing the same pattern again, which could happen with me. So now I've got my next pattern, which is going to look something, let's see if I can show you. It's going to look something like this. I've got my screen the wrong way. Something like that on the bottom. Can you see that? Sort of like little hills. So that's what we're going to try sewing next. So I'm going to drop it in the top. What do I need to do next? While you're typing in the chat what I need to do next, I'm going to give you the answer to the last question I posed to you. When did they make the 401A? And if you already typed it in the chat and you were the first one to do it, then point that out to me, because I'm not looking at the chat right now, and that way you can win something special. So they made the 401A from 1956 to 1961. About 5 years. 56 to 61. That's the answer. So if somebody got it right, not only do you win something special, but you also get a gold star for the day. So the second question I asked you, which was not attached to a contest necessarily, what do I do next? I drop the cam in the top, it's just kind of sitting there. Is that enough? No, I need to pull the white knob out, and then I need to seat it into place. And it snaps, and then I let this go very gently. Don't just let it fly. Let it go gently like that, okay? So now we're going to do this next stitch pattern. I'll get my thread back up on top. And we will try our next plastic cam stitch pattern. But I'm not going to forget this time. Ha ha! Ha 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 ha! So you don't have to just stare at the top of the machine. We're going to go back down there. You can actually watch it sew. Hey, who knows? Yay! Yes, I get notes from all over the world saying, "You're so silly. It's fun." So as long as I keep getting notes like that, I'm going to keep on having fun. Actually, I'll keep on having fun anyway, but whatever. Okay, so here's our next stitch pattern off of this next plastic cam. Here we go. Trying to really control it because I'm running out of space here. I'm running out of space! We're doing some serious sewing, folks. We're doing some serious sewing. Wait a second, did he just say serious on his channel? He's not serious. Ever. Once in a while. Once in a while I am. Okay, so let's go on to this next one. And I probably should orientate it the correct way, shouldn't I? Yes. Let's do that. Let's orientate it the correct way. Alright, I got room for basically 2 more cams, I think. That was our last one. So now, let's see, you are looking down at the stitch off right now. So off camera, I'm taking the spool off the top, I'm opening up the lid, I'm pulling out my little white knob, I'm lifting out the cam, I'm going to set that to the rear, I'm going to select another cam, I'm going to put that on top, I'm going to pull out my little white knob, and then I'm going to seat it into place. I'm going to lightly release the white knob. I feel like I'm doing like a bomb disposal team or something like that, you know? I'm now cutting the red wire. No, I said the blue one! The blue one! What are you, colorblind? Yeah, I am, as a matter of fact. Why are you on the bomb disposal team? My dad's like the, you know how it goes. Alright, so let's do this next one. And we're going to keep on testing this Schmetz needle, at least for 2 more sew-offs. This one and then 1 more. Here we go. Yeah, I did a little bit of an acceleration at the end there, but not much. Just a little modest acceleration. Just modest, a little modest. Okay, so I think we could squeak off. I wonder if I could squeak off 2 more on here. That would be super cool. Then we would have done all the cams that Gloria sent. All the cams, not just 1 more. We're really going to have to make it tight, but I might be able to do this. Might be able to do this. Yeah, this is going to take a little maneuvering, but we can do it, right? We can do it. We can do it. Okay, so for reinforcement, and just remind me to move the camera so you're not staring at the top of the machine, please. All right, so for reinforcement, and again, just for reinforcement, not to insult anyone's intelligence. You guys are super smart. But if you've never seen one of these 401s before, and they're a little bit intimidating, the 401As, we're reducing that apprehension so that you get a 401A eventually, hopefully from the workshop, so that you don't have to go through a lot of frustration. So I'm going to take the spool of thread off, open up the lid, pull my white knob towards me, remove the cam, release the white knob, grab another cam, which is going to be kind of a diamond style pattern this time. Can you see that? And again, it's going to look different because of sewing leather, also because of the settings that I've elected. But it should look similar to that. Okay, so I dropped it in there. Now I'm going to pull out my white knob, push it down, release my white knob gently, close the lid, put our thread back up on top. Dr. Singer, I just noticed something. After doing all of these sew-offs, I just noticed something. Let me show you what I noticed. And this ties into the threading of the machine. And you threaded it, right, Dr. Singer? Did you thread this? Okay, all right. And I mean, you're only kind of human. So let me show folks what a lot of folks will miss. It happens very commonly, not just to Dr. Singer. It happens to a lot of folks. And this ties into the threading of this machine. So the threading of the 401A, you come off the spool pin on top. This obviously has 2 spool pins because it can support twin needle or dual needle sewing. We come across here to this first little thread guide. Spot on, exactly as it should be. Comes through there, then we come down through here, behind this thread guide right here, down through the tension discs. And again, when you're threading a machine, always make sure your take-up arm, your presser foot arm rather, is all the way up. Make sure it's all the way in. Boy, that's really back there. Ugh. Make sure it's all the way in the. Where am I? Make sure it's all the way in the up position. Make sure your take-up arm is also all the way in the up position, which it's not right now. So let me adjust that real quick. And that's partly because of the alignment of running the thread through there. So we came again off of the spool pin, through that thread guide, down here, through the tension discs with the take-up arm on in the highest position and the presser foot lever up. And we bring it through those discs. Make sure you bring it all the way through the discs and in, around this take-up spring, and then draw the take-up spring over so that that thread goes over that thread guide right there. See that thread guide? Look at how dirty our discs got already from that sewing. I have to fix that. And then you want to, after you go over there, then you're going to go up through here behind this same thread guide, up to this take-up arm, right there, all the way back down. We've got a thread guide right there. We've got another thread guide right there, and Dr. Singer did brilliantly. We got another thread guide right there. Does it ever end? Does it ever end? But Dr. Singer missed our final thread guide, which is through that little slat right there. Let me show you how that happens. You take the thread like this, and I may not be able to do this with one finger. This is super tricky. Let me see if I can set the camera down and give you a chance to still see what I'm doing. Yes, you can still see it, I think. So you take this thread and you bring it between that slat and then draw it back so that it's behind, running parallel with that needle. See that? So Dr. Singer did a brilliant job. He got all of the thread points except for this final one right here where this little slat opening is. You got to bring the thread through there and then to the rear and then run it straight down. And then you thread this needle from front to back. And the flat side obviously goes to the rear as well. And if you have any question about that, if you ever run into something like, I'm just not sure, the beauty of these Slant-O-Matics is they have a threading guide right on the inside of the faceplate. And they even show you how to orientate the thread for the bobbin case as well. So we come from here. When you drop that bobbin in, you're going to have the thread coming over the top. You're going to draw it in and then draw that thread straight through this little groove right here. See that little groove opening? Draw it straight back and then pull your thread up by rotating your balance wheel like you normally do. So as this bobbin is unwinding, type in the chat, is it with the thread coming over the top when you insert it, how will this bobbin be unwinding? Will it be unwinding clockwise or counterclockwise? Take a look at it. If you typed in the chat counterclockwise, you are correct. You are correct. Okay, so close this faceplate again. So make sure when you're threading the 401A that you don't miss, excuse me, you don't miss that final thread point that Dr. Singer did right here, where my fingernail is kind of poked in. Make sure you get that final thread point. A lot of people will just run the thread from here straight down to the needle, but you've got to route it through there. Route it through there. Now, if you start getting thread breaking, then that could be indicating that there's a barb or something on the inside of this if you didn't get it otherwise. So that'll be something to check, and you could fix that easily enough by taking some high grit sandpaper, at least 800 grit. I would say 1,000 grit would be better. And then just slide it between there and work it back and forth in case there's somehow a metal barb or something else that got stuck in there that's causing the thread to jam and then to break. Does that make sense? And obviously when you put your needle in, make sure you slide it all the way up in that shaft before you lock it into place with this. So Dr. Singer, even with all your experience, and it's important for our friends to see this, even with all of your experience, you can still miss something sometimes. You can still sometimes make a mistake, just like I do. And that's okay. Mistakes are a stepping stone, not a stumbling block, if you take them with the right attitude, right? If you agree with that philosophy that mistakes are a stepping stone, not a stumbling block, then type it in the chat, would you? All right, so let's go down to our needle. I actually didn't forget. All right, let's lock that in place. And I better plug my camera back in because I can see that we're really low on energy right now. I don't think I charged this before. And when I go to the museum on Tuesday of this week, I'll have to remember to do that. Otherwise, that would be a bad thing. All right, so we're going to do our next plastic cam generated stitch. And I'll get our material into place again. And we will buzz down. We've got to do this stitch pattern. And then if we have room, we're going to squeak one more out next to it. It's going to be really snug. It's going to be snug as a bug in a rug. Super snug. Okay, so let's try this next stitch pattern. And then we have one left and that's it. And then I've got a lot of other turf I'd like to cover with you. All right, here we go. almost laid that down like right next to the other one. I mean, they are like touching. They're like friends. Hey, how you doing there? Pretty good, thanks. All right, so we have one more plastic cam generated stitch to lay down, and then we are done. And we have done a field of stitching that is pretty doggone impressive, on camera and off camera. All right, so let's get our material into place. That one I got a little bit too tight on it. I've got more room than I expected now because I really crunched that last one in. All right, so now off camera, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this final plastic cam, which is going to be like an arrow style cam. And I'll probably have to change my shot because I think I'll be too close in, it won't focus. So let's do that. Yeah, oh heck, we'll just stay out here and we'll just show you the process one more time for kicks and giggles, right? So this is the next one we're going to do is kind of an arrow style pattern. Got to get the light to hit it just right. So this is our final stitch off right here. But first of all, we have to get this in there and get the other one out. So we'll take off our spool of thread, set it on the bed. That kind of rhymes a little bit, doesn't it? Take off the spool of thread, put it on the bed. Yeah, you got it. So I'm going to pull my white knob out, remove the cam, release it. And now we've got our final cam that Gloria sent me. We've gone through 4 of them already. I'm going to put it into position. I'm going to pull up my white knob. I'm going to slide it down into place. Listen. Release my white knob gently. Close that. Thread up top. Take up the slack. And this is officially our final stitch off, which means you probably want to see it, don't you? Yeah. Okay. Been a long day. I'm getting a little bit punchy here, so it's a different level of silly. All right. So we've got our last plastic cam in place. Let's give this a go before it starts to snow. I don't know. I'm doing all these rhymes. All right, here we go. Ooh, that was snug. Holy mackerel, did we use all that leather or what? Yes, we did. We used all that leather. And now we'll have a chance to look at all those stitch patterns finally, after all of that, because you've kind of been watching them sew, except for that one where I forgot to move the camera. But now you get to look at them closer up, which is fun. I think that's always fun, isn't it? But on this leather, I don't know how much we're going to get as far as seeing that lock stitch. We'll just have to, we may have to go on faith on this one. All right, let's zoom in on these and take a look. So we sewed between primary patterns, combination patterns, and the plastic cam patterns. We sewed, where's your shot? Your shot is like way off, Scott. Let's point the camera so they can see what you're counting, you silly guy. All right, I'm going to go wide and then I'll go close. And this was all live on this premiere. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 decorative stitch patterns between the primary patterns, the combination patterns, and then finally these plastic cams that Gloria sent me to test on the machine as well. We sewed on all of these cams that Gloria sent, all 5 of them, because there's one in the machine still. So that's pretty doggone cool. Now let's take a look at them close up so we can see how well this 401 did. As a matter of fact, Well, let's look at them like this, and if we can't see them clearly, then I'll be glad to go ahead and take it off the tripod. Oh heck, let's just come off the tripod so we can look at them right up close and personal. Looks like that battery is charging pretty quick anyway. I like to see stuff close up, don't you? Which means I can actually adjust this stitch holder now, this stitch off holder now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, a couple of rows at the same time because now my battery's dropping. What the heck? So again, I could have probably moved this satin range even a little bit higher up. See where I am right now, right around 20. I could have gone up a little bit more mid-range and got us closer to 25 or 30, and it would have made these even snugger, more snug. But it is what it is, and that's what I set them at. And they still look spot on, really good. Try to get this camera right. So there's our first 4 stitches that we did. And our next 4.5. And our next 4.5. And our last little ones where I was grouping them super tight, ridiculously tight. So again, the look you're going to get for these, if you adjust that stitch length to even a finer setting and you use something other than 4 ounces of genuine cowhide, the look you get is going to be different than what you see right now. But these are all very good looking stitches. The top stitches nicely defined, as you can see. But again, everyone has their preference. There really is a subjectivity when it comes to pattern stitches, when you've got some discretion in how you set them. One person will set it one way, another person will set it another way, and the output you get is different. And different is okay. It's like the diversity of sewing. So now we'll go straight across. Now here's where it gets tricky when we start talking about the lock stitch. Because of this leather nap, we're going to have to struggle a little bit to see this, I think. Because it's a little nappy. It's a little nappy. It's a lot nappy. So let's see what we can see, if anything. Maybe if I lay it down, I think we found in another premiere that if we laid it down, we could somehow see the lines a little bit easier. Oh, that's tough. You just barely make out the outline on it. There was one. Oh, there's one. It's like we spotted a unicorn. Let me pick it up real quick. Yeah. Well, it's in there. You can see the line, that's about it. Hey, there it is, Mom, look it. It's gone. It's there. So yeah, it did Gloria's machine did a fabulous job with this huge field of decorative ornamental type sewing. Just a fabulous job. And you think about all the sewing that we did. We did all this sewing right here. What did I say, 19 different stitch runs through this about 4 ounces of genuine cowhide. Plus, if we reach back there, remember we did the elk hide as well. Look at that stuff. Plus, we did all of this off camera. And when you're using a material like this, a cotton blend, you're going to get more definition from those stitches than you will necessarily when you're sewing on leather like this. So it is, you know, it's just the nature of the material you're using. So, beautiful stitching. And then we did these as well as I was fine-tuning the machine. Did this one as I was trying to get the stitch balance and getting stitch output so it was accurate. This long stitch line of one specific pattern, and I was trying to adjust to get the right output that I wanted. And then this one as well. Yeah, it's a stepping process. You're not always going to nail it the first time. You got to make a number of adjustments, which is why I start labeling them as well, so I can tell which ones I've changed and what the impact is as well. So, but a definite success, an absolute slam dunk for this fabulous 401A that's going to be heading to Georgia really, really soon. Probably after I get back from Indiana, because I'm not going to have time to pack it and ship it before then, unfortunately. But I'm really pleased with how it performed today on all of the stitch offs. Just absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Plus, we showed a little muscle too. A little muscle with this single layer of elkite. And just incredible, intense accuracy with all the needle swing of generating stitching like this, plus the leather as well. Just did a fabulous job. Fabulous job. Just an absolute fabulous job. So I'm very, very pleased. Couldn't be any more pleased with how well Gloria's 401A did through this wide field of sew-offs, all the ones that were engineered in, the cam-generated ones, and the list goes on. Just did an excellent, excellent job. So very, very pleased. Very, very pleased. How about you, Dr. Singer? Are you pleased too? Yeah, he is. He's totally pleased. And we learned something new as well. If you didn't know, there's your final threading point right there before you go through the needle. So, good stuff. Good stuff. We all learn together in the classroom, right? We all learn together. So what I wanted to show you beyond what we've already covered is a bunch of things. I wanted to show you a couple more Slant-O-Matics as well. And I'm going to have to move Dr. Singer in order to do that, plus our cams. Dr. Singer, I'm going to move you, sir, just so you don't get bumped. I bump things sometimes, and I don't want to bump you. I've got other Slant-O-Matics on the other workbench as well that I wanted to show you. I talk a lot about Slant-O-Matics, and I'll talk a little bit about their differences, and I'll even tell you specifics about them, but I don't believe I've ever shown you all the Slant-O-Matics during a premiere. Kind of lined them up and showed you and talked a little bit about the different features on them, etc. So let's do that real quick. And then we have pictures to look at on Facebook as well. This is going to be a marathon. So if you didn't go to the bathroom before, you're sure hating yourself right now. So again, the beauty of the 401A that belongs to Gloria from the great state of Georgia is it gives you the best of all worlds. It's got needle position. It's got zigzag. It's got engineered stitches in, tons of engineered stitching inside through that cam stack as you've seen during this premiere. Plus, you can add those plastic cams on top of that. And then it's got the slant needle. It's got great bed space. It's got great harp space. It just has so many things going for it. And again, this particular machine model, the 401A, was made from 1956 to 1961. Now, there were a lot of other Slant-O-Matics that came into the picture as well, like this one to the left that I just put on the table, on the workbench. This happens to be a 404, which is only a straight stitch machine. So all of you that love doing quilting and you like doing the quilt blocks and assembling them and all that kind of stuff, this is a great machine to have to do that with, because It's going to give you a pure straight stitch, just like the featherweight is a pure straight stitch machine. And but it's also going to give you a lot more power. It's got a 0.54 amp vertically mounted motor, just like the other Slant-O-Matics, except for Gloria's 401A that has a larger motor. This is going to have a 0.54 amp that peaks at 0.6. So this little 404 that you're looking at right now, which only weighs 5 pounds more than the featherweight, is going to have equal power to what a 201-2 or 1591 has. Plus, it's got the interlacing worm gears, no belt, so it's going to have positive traction that gives you incredible launch, incredible capabilities to sew through heavy grade materials, multiple layers of quilt batting, you name it, it's going to buzz through it. Plus, you got a lot more workspace than most machines of its size. So it gives you a lot. And this, by the way, is for sale. If you're interested in me finalizing it and preparing it for you, you can reach out privately. We'll discuss it. We'll come up with a price, and then I'll begin preparations on it to get it ready for you. But again, if you're a hardcore quilter and you want a straight stitch machine that does fabulous stitching, beautiful quality, plus you have the benefit of the slant needle on this, like all the other Slant-O-Matics, that gives you better visibility down at the needle. You've got the ease of the drop-in bobbin, which is a class 66 bobbin as well. Plus you've got the throat plate razor, which is the equivalent of a feed dog dropper on this machine as well. You just push this lever to the side. It raises the throat plate up so you can do darning or freehand embroidery type sewing with it as well. Just a fabulous machine. It really is. And again, they made this 404 model from 1958 to 1963. So 58 to 63. Now the other model I wanted to show you is just on the other side of Gloria's model. This model right here. I can I might have to angle that a little bit more for you. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So this is a Singer 403A. And the A signifies that it was made, just like Gloria's machine is a 401A, signifies that it was made in Anderson, South Carolina. That's what the A stands for, Anderson. So this 403A was also made in Anderson, South Carolina. Now, if you remember the other manufacturing plant that commonly, also East Coast, was commonly a birthplace of a lot of machines that we show on this channel, tell me where that's located. And if you type it in the chat before I name it, then I will send you something special if you're the first one to do it. But the machine we're looking at right now, again, is a 403A. We already know that that's Anderson, South Carolina. What I'm looking for is the other location also on the East Coast. And the 403A was built from 1958 to 1960. So close to the 404. The 404 was actually made... They started making it in the same year. The 404 and the 403A were both, they started production in 1958, but the 404 that I showed you first was actually made longer than this 403A. Again, the 404 was made until 1963. This 403A was made only until 1960. So the 404, the straight stitch only machine I showed you first, was made 3 years longer than this 403A. But this 403A is a real desirable machine, and I'll tell you why. Number one, it's going to give you needle position. That's what this control is right. Whoops, sorry. That's what this control is right here. It's also going to give you a special setting so that you can put black cams in, just like we just did on Gloria's machine, right up here. And it's also going to give you the zigzag capacity that the 404 does not have as you move it, to the right. You can get up to a size 5 zigzag, which is quite large. And then you've got your stitch length over here. It's got a lot of nice features for the 403A. A lot of people, when it comes to the machines, they really they gravitate towards this 403A because of the zigzag, because of the cam capacity, and it having all the other bells and whistles that a lot of the other Slant-O-Matics have, and because it's not as intimidating as all of this that we just covered in this premiere. A lot of people get intimidated by this. So when it comes to I better plug this camera back in. Duh. When it comes to a machine that a lot of people gravitate towards, they're gonna gravitate. If they're doing strictly quilt blocking, they're going to be gravitating towards this 404 that I'm offering for sale. If they're not intimidated or daunted by a little bit of a challenge, they go after the 401A. If they want a lot of choices, a lot of versatility, a lot of flexibility, but they don't want to be quite, I don't know if I'm quite brave enough to take on the 401A, they go after the 403A. And this one obviously is in transition right now. It doesn't have a clutch retainer to hold the balance wheel on. Obviously, since I'm offering this for sale as well, if you want to buy yourself a late Christmas present, obviously it'll be finalized and everything will be as it should be. But this is a great machine. And again, the 403A started the same year as the 404 in 1958, but they stopped making it about 3 years before the 404. Now let's go over to the other workbench. I got more to show you. Got a lot of stuff happening over here on this workbench, right over here. So what we're looking at on the far right is probably one of my favorite machines. Oh, well done, Dr. Singer. You may have threaded Gloria's 401A slightly wrong by missing that last thread point, but you remembered to put out the special gifts that Roz sent me, my friend Roz from Michigan. She is a sweetheart, and she happened to be either watching something. I don't know if she was watching something or she actually visited this other workshop. It's called Fred Sanford's Sewing Machine Parts. So I don't know if he has a channel and she saw a video of his, or if she was actually at his parts shop and she saw these cool little gifts that are in these little bags. And she said right away, I wanted them for Scott. They were going to be Scott's. The guy just had to name his price, and I was going to get these cool little gifts for Scott because I love the guy, and I love his channel, and I love what he does. And that's the great thing about Roz, is she is such a kind, generous, loving sweetheart of a gal. And she saw these, and she said, I'm getting them for Scott. I'm getting them for Scott. And Fred's going to have to sell them to me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to call the boys. I'm going to have to call the boys! So let me show you what she picked up. And I don't want these to roll off, so I'm going to kind of park them. And move the light a little bit so you can see them. And they're going head to head for a reason, because they're competitors! Ha-ha! All right. So she saw these really cool cast iron style cars. And the one on the left is obviously Singer. The one on the right is Foff. And she got them from Fred. I don't know if she threatened, hey, I'm going to break your knees, man, unless you sell them. I want to give them to my man Scott, you know, the boy out in Wisconsin, the cowboy. But whatever she did it. And they are absolutely fabulous. They are absolutely fabulous. Let me angle them a little bit differently so you can kind of look at them from different angles. There's kind of a front shot. You can see the grill, the super cool grill on the two vehicles. And the other side's identical. I'll show you the back, which is super cool. It has kind of an opera window thing going on. And a spare tire. Actually, Singer's... Oh, no, they both had two spare tires. I thought Singer had two spare tires in case Foff decided to sabotage them. But these are just an example of how thoughtful, how kind, and how generous folks can be. What was that, Dr. Singer? Yes, yes. She is the real pretty lady that I showed a picture of on one of the premieres. Dark hair, olive-colored skin. She's a head turner. But she's married. She's married to a doctor just like you. I mean, he's taller. I can't say if he's taller. I think he's taller. She showed me a picture of him. She and her two boys, and I think he's taller than... He might be taller than you. I don't know. You know, camera angles can fool a lot of people. But at any rate, she's just a sweetheart of a gal, and sent these to me. I can only assume with the timing of things and everything, probably as a Christmas gift. And I'm going to put them up on the workbench and keep them safe. I'm going to move them right now before they roll off somehow. But these are just magnificent. They have little seats inside. I don't know if you can see that on, let's see. They have little seats on the inside and everything. A little windshield thing going on there. A little stamp on the bottom. Isn't that awesome? One for our German brand and one for our American brand, which is kind of cool. Oh, I didn't read this on the bottom. These are made in England. These are from England. Yep, made in England. English make cool stuff, don't they? Yeah. All right, let me set these over by Dr. Singer so that they're safe on the other workbench. And we will take a closer peek at some of these other Slant-O-Matics once I adjust the camera angle. So this is again our 503A, which I think is just a spectacular machine. And the beauty of the 503A is that it's got a lot of the same features that some of the other Slant-O-Matics have and more. Plus it's got adornments to include a really cool Singer crest on the faceplate as an ornamental accent. And it's gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. It's got really nice sleek lines. It's just real sexy looking. And this machine was produced by Singer from 1961 until 1963. So only about 2.5 to 3 years they produced this one. And it was in a window of time when Necchi was really trying to beat the pants off of Singer. They were really going after Singer hard and heavy, coming out with a lot of beautiful, sexy, curvaceous machines. And I think Singer finally just said enough is enough in 1961. And they decided to come out with two great models in 1961. The 503A, which I always call kind of the cruise line version of the Slant-O-Matic. It just has it just looks like a cruise liner to me, like a luxury cruise liner. It's just gorgeous. Plus this little lid on top opens as well and gives you a quick reference to a lot of the stitch output that the machine can do. Just like the 401A does similar to that as well. So they didn't want to just make it look gorgeous and have it sew well, but they also wanted to provide as many tools on the machine as possible so that the sewer didn't have to struggle. They would have a source of reference. And this Slant-O-Matic, the 503A, also has that quick reference for threading as well on the inside of the faceplate. Plus a real cool presser foot adjuster as well. Instead of like the 401A that has the traditional little knob on top, this has a dial where you can change the setting of presser foot pressure with a click of the dial. I'll zoom in on it so you can look at it closer. So with just a click of the dial, depending on what you're sewing, this camera is alive, it's alive. Depending on what you're sewing, again, the thicker the material, the more layers, the more dense. You increase presser foot pressure, the less dense. If you're dealing with silks and satins and light stuff, then you can reduce it with just a click. So they decided to get rid of the knob that was on top, like on the 401A on Gloria's, and they decided to add this click style. And the 500A has the same feature. And the 500A is in transition right now. It's not finalized. It's been in my personal inventory, and I haven't done much with it. So you're going to see that it's actually incomplete as it is right now, and so I'm not offering it for sale. I'm not offering it for sale. But this 503A cruise liner is available for sale. And again, it's going to have a vertically mounted motor just like the 404 and the 403A that you've already seen. And also the same as the 401A, it's just going to have a 0.54 amp motor instead of a 0.9 amp motor like the 401A that belongs to Gloria. But that's still a lot of power, folks. It peaks at 0.6 So this machine you're looking at right now is beautiful and sexy and delicate and gorgeous as it looks. It's going to have the same power as the Singer 201-2 or the Singer 1591. That's a lot of grit. Plus it has that positive traction as well. So I can't imagine too many things you can't sew on this 503A. Now its brother, born in the same year, or I should say introduced in the same year, would be more accurate, is this machine on the end, which is probably partly gone, partly there. You can kind of see it. Not the black one in the foreground, but the background, the beige colored one. That's a 500A. And the 500A was produced in the same years as the 503A, the last machine we just looked at, the cruise liner. It was produced from 1961 to 1963. But what it offered that the 503A did not offer, the 503A will take cams. So you can use the same black cams on this cruise liner as you can on the 401A. But it does not have built-in engineered cams like the 401A and like this 500A. This 500A can take cams. It also has a huge cam stack like the 401A. So you've got the flexibility of, you don't have to put a cam in if you don't want to, but you can still access in a similar manner by adjusting these two knobs, the gold knob and then the brown knob. You can access through those two panels like we did on Gloria's machine, panel A, panel B, and choose a huge field of decorative stitching. Plus, it has that presser foot adjuster on the faceplate area, like the 503A, where you can dial a presser foot pressure instead of having to adjust the knob control on top like the 401A. And there's nothing wrong with adjusting presser foot pressure on top versus here. It was just a feature that Singer decided to add to say, hey, look what we got. Look what we got. So just fabulous examples of Slant-O-Matic machines. And I wanted to present all of these in one premiere so you could see all of them together. But we're not done yet. We've got to look at the first Slant-O-Matics that ever came on the scene. And that was these two right here in the middle, the black ones. And the one on the right actually belongs to Roz, the sweetheart of a gal that gave me those two beautiful trucks that I just showed you. And what I'm doing right now is I'm going to the very final steps. You've seen progress shots on Facebook, if you do Facebook, of Florencia. Florencia is this black machine on the right that belongs to Roz, and it's named in honor of her grandmother. And it is drop dead gorgeous. It's a 301A. And so it was born between the years of 1953 and 1957. The thing to point out about the 301 series, both the 301 on the left and the 301A on the right that belongs to Roz, is that these machines have a greater rarity factor than the Singer Featherweight 221. You see all these featherweight groups on Facebook groups where they all give each other featherweight hugs, and they have the secret featherweight handshake and all this other pizzazz stuff about, look at how rare my featherweight is, when in reality they're not nearly as rare as these 301 series Singer machines from the Slant-O-Matic series. Why do I say that? Well, plain and simple, and I'll come off the tripod for this, because I want you to look at these machines closer up. I know we're kind of distant looking right now. I'll just have to watch my battery, because my battery's real low. And I'm plugged in at the tripod. So the thing to emphasize about these two models, and you can see why I say that Florencia, this one right here that I'm pointing at, is nearing the end phases. Look at that. Yes, you can comb your hair. Any moment now you can comb your hair. So brand new paint, decals, clear coat. Florencia is just, she's museum quality. She really is. I should almost take her on the trip with me to the museum in South Bend, Indiana, and bring her into the museum just so that she can say, yep, I was in a museum. When she sees Roz face to face, she can go, yep, I was in that museum. Did you see me did you see me in the museum? Did you see me? Did you see me? So, I'm down to one bar. So that's Florencia. Then I'm going to come back distant again before I die with my battery here. And this is the 301 on the left. And she's also equally gorgeous. Just, I have a little bit more decal work to do on her because some of these decals are faded. They're complete but faded. So let's go back to the tripod before the camera croaks. Real quick. All right. Plug in, plug in, plug in. Power, 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 power. Flower power. All right, so let's zoom in on these again. Okay, so again, Roz's Florencia is on the right, and that happens to be a 301A. Made, and the A stands for Anderson, South Carolina. That's what the A stands for. So 301A was made in Anderson, South Carolina. A 301 on the left was made in Elizabethport, New Jersey at their plant. And that was the other plant name that a while back I asked you a question or whatever, and I don't know if you typed it in the chat or not and got it right. But that was the name that I was looking for when I talked about Anderson, South Carolina, and I talked about the other plant on the East Coast. I was talking about Elizabethport, New Jersey. So the one on the left, the 301, was made in Elizabethport, New Jersey. Florencia, Roz's very special heirloom machine that I'm preparing for her to honor her grandmother, was made in Anderson, South Carolina. Back to my point, why are these two 301s more rare than the featherweights that everybody is drooling and goo-goo and gagaing about? Because during the production of the 221, the standard 221, 22-1 that they made for the featherweight, that was introduced again at the Chicago World's Fair back in 1933-34. During the course of the production of that model, they made a little bit over 3 million of them. During the production of the 301 on the left, that they only made in one model year, 1952. This one right here, the only year they made this, 1952. They only made 185,750 of those 301s. That's it. On this earth, at that factory in Elizabethport, New Jersey, they made 185,750 compared to over 3 million featherweights, 221s. That's why I say it's rare. And Roz's 301A that was made in Anderson, South Carolina has the same bragging rights, not quite as rare as the 301 as far as the production size and the number of years that it was made. Again, the 301 on the left was only made one model year, 1952, and they only made 185,750 of them in Elizabethport, New Jersey. The 301A on the right that belongs to Roz was made from 1953 to 1957. And they only, in that course of production years, so 53 to 57 is what? 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 5 years, 4 or 5 years of production, they only made 514,250 of the 301As. A little bit over 500,000 machines. Now that sounds like a lot, but that's about a quarter of the machines that they made that they brag about called the Featherweight 221. So that's why I say if you have a 301, holy mackerel, you've got a incredibly rare treasure. All of these are treasures, but an incredibly rare treasure from the standpoint of production size. 185,750 compared to 3 million, duh. 514,250 with a 301A compared to 3 million, duh. So if any of you are watching and you have featherweights, I know many of you do, they're a wonderful machine. They are a treasure. But if you've been wandering around with some of these goofballs in some of these groups and you've been bragging about how rare your featherweight is, talk to me about how rare your 301 or your 301A is, because there's some real bragging rights. There are some real bragging rights when you're talking about a machine like that. The only featherweight style machine that I would say both of these 301s that we're looking at right now, the 301 and the 301A, Roz's machine on the right, would have to tip their hat to in a sense, or in this case, tip their bobbin to, would be the 222K, the featherweight convertible version, the free arm. Because that was produced for 8 years, only in Kilbowie, Scotland, the 222K. Hans has one, I have one, Uh, who else? Maddie has one. Maddie sent me one. It was the first 222K to ever be in this workshop. Duh. Maddie sent me one from Florida. So the three of us have 222Ks. Why is it so significant? Because they made that machine only in Kilbowie, Scotland for 8 years, and they only made about 110,000 of them over 8 years. Does that tell you how particular they were about that? I mean, it was selling. They didn't have to persuade, hey, would you please buy the... No. It's kind of like some cars. By the time they start producing them, they've already sold the ones that are being produced. They're not even done with the car yet. It's already sold. That's kind of the way it went with the 222Ks that came out of Scotland. There was a back waiting list on those that was probably crazy. They made them for 8 years and they couldn't even keep up with the demand. And they only made about 110,000 over 8 years. So that is the only machine within this type of class and structure that would fit kind of with the theme of the 301 tilt bed, blah, 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 that I would say, okay, if you got a 22K, you've got a ultra rare treasure. Ultra rare. Because over 8 years, they only made 110,000. Wow. Hans has one, Maddie has one, I have one. Some of you that are watching right now may have a 222K, or you might be saying, oh my gosh, that is at the top of my bucket list. I would love to have a 222K. Are you kidding? But I just can't afford them. The average price for one that's not even out of your workshop, Scott, is right around $2,000. $2,000 is the average price for a 222K. If you look on eBay, if you look on Etsy, if you look on any of the sites out there. But I got some news for you, and I want you to really listen carefully. I have a 222K that I'm going to be offering for sale probably right after the new year. So save up some money from Christmas, save up some money from the holidays. If we eventually get another stimulus check, save that stimulus check, because I'm going to be offering a drop-dead gorgeous 222K case, all the attachments, all the goodies, all the bells and whistles, and it will be for sale sometime probably right after the first of the year. I got so much going on right now, I can't give it proper justice and attention to prepare it for sale and for showing you pictures of it on Facebook and all that, but I will do that soon. So if you have an interest in advance, reach out. Contact me through Messenger, contact me through texting, contact me by smoke signal, I don't care. But I would love to have you have an opportunity to express interest even before it's officially announced. Kind of like when the 22Ks were being produced, they were being sold even before people could see them. But people knew what they wanted. And you already know the caliber and the quality of the machines that come out of the workshop, not only how they perform, like you saw Gloria's do today on this live premiere, but how they look. They're just like, oh my gosh. You just saw Florencia close up. That's a machine I've been working on for months, and I'm not even done with her yet. Because this is a tribute machine to honor Roz's grandmother, Florencia. It's got to be top shelf. It's got to be museum quality, because this is going to become one of the heirloom pieces that is in Roz's family's collection in their space. I get a little bit emotional just thinking about it, so I can't even compose my thoughts and pick the right words, but you know what I'm saying. So, I mean, I take a lot of, y'all know this, I take a lot of pride in my machines. So this 222K that I'm going to be offering sometime after the first of the year, it's going to be, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I own this. It's that great already, and I'm not even done with it. So let me just capstone this again real quick on this workbench, and then we'll jump back to the other one. I really wanted to be able to show you the entire family of Slant-O-Matics in one premiere, and that's what we've accomplished today. On the far left is the 500A, made in the same year as the 503A on the far right. Both of them were made in 1961 to 1963. And then in the middle we've got the 301 On the left, the 301A that belongs to Roz on the right. And again, the 301 was only made in 1952, and Roz's 301A was made from 1953 to 1957. Incredibly rare machines, incredible treasures. Then on this workbench, on the far left, we have the 404. That was made from 1958 to 1963. On the far right, we've got the 403A, made from 1958 to 1960. And then right in the middle, not for sale, we've got the 401A that belongs to Gloria out of the great state of Georgia. And again, the 401A was made from 1956 until 1961. But the two machines on the outside that you can see, the 404 and the 403A, are available for sale if you want to contact me and express an interest in them. And again, they're going to be finalized. They're going to be brought as close to perfection, certainly better than when they left the factory, before that machine would be released from the workshop to come to you. And also again, the 503A on the corner here is also available for sale. 500A is not, because there's too much stuff I still need to do. I need to source parts for it. But the 503A is ready for sale if you want to express an interest. I just think it's drop dead gorgeous. And then the 404 on the far left and the 403A on the far right are available for sale as well. So with that, finally, blah, 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 let's pop over to Facebook. And I know that this is a very long premiere, but we've covered a lot of really good stuff. Let's see. Shut that off so that you don't see that reflection as a distraction. And I may have to refresh this because it's been sitting here a long time waiting for me to get ready, for goodness sakes. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll keep the faith. So these are going to be shots of Gloria's 401A going through different processes and getting different treatments, getting adjustments, deep cleaning, you name it. When a machine comes into the workshop, like this 401A, it gets the works from bobbin to balance wheel. So not a bad machine even coming in, but that's the outside. And I did work on the outside as well. Oh, it actually did go. Yay! So a lot of these shots are just going to be showing the beginning part of starting to focus on the machine as I begin my work on it. I like to document things just as where things started, and then so we can see kind of the end result, the impact that I brought. I just love that crest. I don't know about you, but I think that the 401A is just, when you talk about a showpiece and just drop dead gorgeous, it's a wow machine. It's a wow machine. And that crest and that model plate play a big role in that. Right side shot down, just kind of taking a look at it as Dr. Singer is as well. And again, I just want to take a shot of the throat plate controller. It had kind of a dinginess to it, and also some scratching on it, so I just kind of wanted to document where it started. And I cleaned it up. I didn't do a huge amount of cosmetic stuff to that, but here you can see this is the tensioner for winding a bob, and look at all the crud behind there. And this is where, at a quick glance, you can look at a machine and go, oh, it's so pretty, it's so pretty. And then you get close on it and you're like, oh my gosh, that thing is filthy. It's a pigsty. Nothing against pigs. I like pigs. I think pigs are cool. Unless they start flying, then I got an issue with that. I got an issue with flying pigs. There, Dr. Singer's just checking out that cool little quick reference that's on top of Gloria's machine. Just kind of checking out all the stitches, many of which we sewed today in this premiere live. And there I'm taking off the cover for the light. There's a lot of service points on the cover. There's a lot of service points on the socket that the bulb goes into. And of course, I replaced Gloria's with the LED bulb because it had a standard incandescent bulb in it, and it just wasn't producing enough light. And you can see there the the magnifier, which kind of directs the light down to the needle in the bed. If you can't see that in the shot, it was almost black from dirt and filth. So it needed quite a bit of cleaning. And there I'm kind of taking the socket for the light out, because I always like to inspect the wiring, make sure that everything is good to go. Also, there's some points on there that need to be cleaned as well. The assembly itself and also behind it as well. You can't leave any dirt behind because it migrates. There I'm using a dental tool because the two contacts that are inside of there that the bulb makes contact with were kind of crunched down, and the bulb was working, but I was concerned that if it got jostled, got bumped around a little bit, because it wasn't making really solid contact, that I needed to adjust those so that they made better contact with that LED bulb when it went into that housing. And then we're looking at taking the cover off of the 401A. There are so many service points, as you'll see underneath the hood on the 401A. It's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing, and part of that is because of the complexity of the cam stack on that machine, just like the 500A. Now this is over by the balance wheel side, and you can see readily how filthy this machine was. I mean, it was just, look at that crud. And it was into the interlacing worm gears that come off of the balance wheel, which is this right here, and then also the worm gear that connects with it off of the top of the stack of the motor. The grooving was so cruded up that it really wasn't getting the proper traction that it needed. So all of that had to be cleaned. This is off of the top off the pitman arm, and this also had a lot of cleanliness issues. You can kind of see the crudding in there, and it also was really quite dry, as were the lubrication wells too. And in this little region that we're looking at right now, there are probably at least 10 service points. This is just to the left of the cam stack, and you can see that not only do we have crud and dirt, but we also have a lot of rust. You see that rust right there? That's not varnishing, that's rust. And that was only the tip of the iceberg as I worked my way through the machine. The cam stack and the levers and the levelers here that allow the cam stack to be adjusted. The silver thing on the right, that's my more technical description of it. They were just a combination of grime, dirt, varnishing, rust. The machine had a lot of challenges. There's another angle, and you can not only see the rust here on this main post that comes off of the main controllers, but also on this leveler assembly part here too that's connected to the cam stack. Combination of rust, there you can see it, I had the wrong angle. Rust, varnishing, and everything else on this leveler right here. Both sides. There you can see it closer up. And that is some varnishing, but that had varnishing and rust, as did this main post coming off the controls. Look at those cam stacks. And these are cam stacks that should be absolutely spick and span, because the reader assemblies and that have to run over these to be able to determine what the stitch output is. Look at that. That is horrible. I mean, it's a cesspool. And I think Gloria is so smart for sending this machine here so that I could resolve this, so that the machine does what it's designed to do. Otherwise, it would be a point of frustration for her. And there Dr. Singer is paradoxically, I took these pictures some time ago, and he is highlighting the quick reference on the inside of the faceplate for threading Gloria's machine. And then you got it wrong, Doctor. What's that about? I think it's funny as heck. I really do. It's like preparing something, and then still goofing it up, like I do sometimes. So welcome to the club, Dr. Singer. Welcome to the club. But that's why people love us, because we're real, right? We're real. We don't fake it. If we goof up, we goof up. John Smith said that about me during one of our first conversations. He says, Scott, one of the things I love about you is that if You make a mistake, you don't try to cover it up, you don't edit it, it's just there. And you readily acknowledge it. But that's how we get better, isn't it? By acknowledging our shortcomings and faults and trying to be better. So I think it only makes sense. I think it only makes sense. And those are some critical pivot points in the faceplate assembly. And they were heavily varnished. Some of them had rust and just filthy. How does that look? That is, you know, through the whole premiere we kept adjusting that brown knob, that white knob, so that we could get the different stitch outputs from the cam stack built into Gloria's machine. That's the cleanliness of what that controller looked like before I went through and mitigated all of that dirt, filth, rust, varnishing. You can just see how filthy that controller was, and the fact that it was not functioning as it did today in today's premiere. It functions perfectly now as it should. And again, if you take this to a local service center, guess what? It's gonna, you take it in looking like this, when you pick up that machine, it's gonna look like that. Exactly the same. Because in their 30 to 45 minutes, they don't have time to deal with it. There's no way. So this is our upper tension control that I have in my hand. It's kind of hard to see a little bit, I know. But what I'm showing Dr. Singer is that some people will just swab between the discs. I talked about that before. They do like a cheater's method of trying to get the upper tension optimized. The only way you can optimize it is to take it all the way down, disassemble it, and clean and strip every bit of dirt, grime, varnishing off of those parts, and then lubricating the appropriate ones. Not all of the parts should be lubricated, and getting that functioning as it needs to define that lock stitch. Dr. Singer is just a curious little fella, isn't he? And some of this he knows, and some of it I teach him. Just like he teaches me some stuff. Just like all of you teach me stuff too. And that's the beauty of the classroom. Sometimes a teacher, always, fill it in the blank. Type it into the chat if you know what I'm going to finish that sentence with. Sometimes a teacher, always, what? And here, the Captain Smith, Herr Obermeister, Mr. Bean, and all of them are looking at. I tore that down all the way to its tiniest level, and they're all looking at it and going, I don't know about this. I don't know if that was a wise move there, Scott. We know you're the boss, but I don't know if that was a wise move to take it that far. Do we really have to take it that far? Really? Do we? Yep, we do. Oh, that was my keyboard. We don't have to take it that far. We just have to take it this far. So that is the difference right there. You're going to see on blogs, you're going to see other cheater places on the internet where they say, oh, you don't have to take it apart. Just swab this, do this, blow it through with air, compressed air or something like that. That's enough. That's malarkey. That's absolute malarkey. And that's what they would do at a local service center in your neck of the woods. They would use compressed air or something like that to blow between the discs. Hopefully they remember to raise the presser foot lever. Otherwise, what's the point? Because those discs are clamped together when that presser foot lever is down. Some of them might not even think about doing that. I don't know. But this is my method. And it's a very, very intense surgical method, like every other part of the servicing on the machine. Even Dr. Singer's looking a little bit worried, isn't he? Are you sure, Scott, you know how to put all that back together properly? Are you sure you know what needs to be cleaned and lubricated and stripped and what we need to lubricate again? And what do we lubricate it with? Do we use your pink grease? Do we use oil? Do we use what? What do we use? What do we use? I got this, Dr. Singer. It's all good, buddy. It's all good. It's all good. Captain Smith is almost looking a little bit ticked off, isn't he? Well, you can't see him. I cut his head off.
Yeah, right, you can do that. Sure, matey, sure. Good luck with that, good luck with that. I'm just going to keep my hands in my pockets, because then you can't ask me to assemble anything. I've got my hands in my pockets, see that? Here, Obermeister will help, he's a go-getter. He'll help me put this back together correctly. And do everything to each one of these parts that needs to be done to them, because each part needs something different. What's that about? Yikes. Mr. Bean's just going to be a supervisor. He's a supervisory guy, you know that. Yeah, he's a supervisor guy.
All right, boys, here's our plan. Now you execute it. Look at that. See what I'm talking about with Herr Obermeister? He's already got a screwdriver in his hand. He's already saying, all right, let's get this job done. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's just a little thing. It's just a little thing. See? I'm ready. Let's go to work. Come on, Scott. I'm with you. I'm with you, buddy. Herr Obermeister, you are super. Fantastisch. Herr Obermeister keeps this up. He's going to become an assistant to Dr. Singer before Mr. Bean does, that's for sure. You got to be willing to get your hands dirty in this workshop. So there we've got a special little container which probably is designed for baking. I think I've said that before. And all of those parts are going into a special solution that's going to help to break down some of that stuff that's on them. Because a lot of those parts they're softer metal. You can't be grinding on them. You can't be sanding on them. And you got to treat them with a level of respect as you're trying to get all that stuff off of them. And there they are. They're getting their Saturday bath. I don't think that was Saturday, but you know what I mean. They're getting their special bath. Getting all that junk off. Junk is bad. Junk is bad. And there we are really digging into the different parts and getting all the junk off of them. And Q-tips are a wonderful tool to do that with. Q-tips are a wonderful tool. We're starting to make progress. Getting those layers, layer by layer by layer by layer down. Even the take-up spring has to be cleaned. And then it has to be treated with machine oil, kerosene, something to keep it supple and soft so that it doesn't break. The problem with springs is they become rigid and brittle, and they can snap. Plus, they need that freedom of movement and what do I want to say? Range of motion. They need range of motion to function properly. Every part needs attention. You can't overlook a single part of that upper tension control. The same thing with any other part of the machine. And you have to know what to do with it. It's not all of them are a Q-tip approach. Not all of them you can clean with a dental tool. That one you can. I love my dental tools. Does anybody else have dental tools? Dr. Singer, if you fall in, I am not going to jump in to save you. Just so you know that. I am not going to jump in to save you. You're cute and you're cuddly and all that, but you can swim just as well as I can. And that's out of sight, out of mind. That is a critical part of the upper tension assembly that the spring mounts to. And that's got all kinds of crud and gook in those grooves. And all of that has to be taken out. Does that look different? Yeah, it does. That's how it needs to look. That's how it should look. That's how it must look if it's going to leave this workshop. And that is also one of the parts that needs additional treatment and lubrication because the release pin floats in and out of there constantly when you're activating and deactivating the presser foot lever. So there's a lot of things you have to do to make sure that it functions because it has moving parts. A lot of people look at the upper tension and they pretty much think of it as a fixed mechanism, but it has a number of parts that are constantly moving during the process of sewing. It's a neat little brush. I use that on a lot of different things for cleaning. Even the bottom oil beds on the 301As also get brushed with that as well. You can look at that paper towel that I have it sitting on. You can look at the Q-tip itself and just get an idea of how filthy. And again, if you took this into a local service center, the way you bring it in is the way you're going to get it back. I've never found an exception to that, because most of those service centers have a lot of overhead and they cannot afford to go to this level of servicing, or they'd go out of business. Just more detailed cleaning. More detailed cleaning. And now after it's gotten a bath, you have to go through there and then work all of that stuff off of each of those parts, because it's not going to just drip off. See what I mean? One of the pressure discs. And the 401A has multiple pressure discs when it comes to that upper tension. There I'm going after that pin release. That's going to be the next thing I try to target. I'm almost down to the end. Special solvent to strip the rest of that stuff off and also to protect it from rusting. There's all of our clean parts resting on the bed of Gloria's machine. Empty bath. All of our work as far as detailing them is done now. Now we have to put the silly thing back together again. And that's what an upper tension assembly looks like when it is absolutely Better Homes and Gardens spick and span. If that thing is assembled properly, which, duh, I'll do that, and Dr. Singer and Herr Obermeister are going to help me, because of the way that it's been cleaned and prepared, it is going to function absolutely to perfection, which means that that lock stitch is going to be exactly where we want it to be. And it's going to be able to function at a reasonable setting level without having to go to the extreme, because everything is functioning at an optimal level. There's Herr Obermeister, the captain. Even the captain and Mr. Bean are there, kind of, okay, we can help maybe a little. Looks like Mr. Bean has one of the dental tools. I hope he doesn't impale himself. I do not need another workman's comp from Mr. Bean. I just don't. I don't need that. And also the service that the upper tension mounts to. There's a number of areas up here with thread guides and mounting points and everything else, plus the inside of the well that the upper tension seats into, with that pin that reaches into the inside of the faceplate area. All of that has to be cleaned as well. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And again, you would not get that level of servicing from a local service center. And all I can say is if you've seen the way my machines perform, the strength that they have, the quality of stitching and everything else, you can answer the question right away of the skeptic and saying, well, really, do you really have to go this far? Is this really kind of excessive? No, it's necessary. It's necessary. It really is, if you want to have the best machine possible. And there, Herr Obermeister is studying the final product after I put it all back together. And yes, Mr. Bean was on the back of the machine goofing around with a presser foot lever, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Are the discs releasing, Herr Obermeister? Ja, all is clear, all is good. Let me do it again. No, you've done it enough, Mr. Bean. Don't break Gloria's machine. Don't break Gloria's machine, doggone it. So, that is Series 1 photos. Series 2 photos. Now, I had one person, when I posted this on Facebook, that saw this pic of Mr. Bean studying the filth and grime on the presser foot bar and the presser foot sleeve. See all that junk? See all that gook? And her response wasn't, oh my gosh, that is filthy. Oh my gosh, look at how nasty that is. Oh my gosh, that's not going to work properly when it's like that. Her only comment was, Mr. Bean looks creepy. No, he doesn't. He looks like an inspector. He's laying on his side, studying it, inspecting it,
putting together a plan that we can execute and do all the work for. And that's the way Mr. Bean is. Yeah, he doesn't look creepy. Okay, if any of you think that in that shot where Mr. Bean is like an inspector looking at this and studying all the dirt, and he's going to come to me and say, Scott, you need to clean that. If any of you think that he doesn't look like he's really actually almost working there, if you think he looks creepy, just type in the chat, creepy, or whatever you want to put in there to indicate that you think he looks creepy, like this other individual that posted her comment when I posted these on Facebook. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. Because maybe I'm missing something, but I know Mr. Bean, and he's lazy but not creepy. He's also a real good dancer, too. Oh, where are we? So that is after Mr. Bean pointed it out to me as being the good inspector that he is, and I started to mitigate the issues with it. Right now I'm using a dental tool to start to break down those layers of lacquering and varnishing and everything else. And eventually, oh, there I am. Yeah, that's me. Notice what Mr. Bean is doing? He doesn't have a dental tool. He's just standing there making sure that I'm doing a good job. Like I said, Mr. Bean's the supervisor. And yes, I use my magnifiers so I can see details that the average eye can't see. Because inevitably, even as hard as I try to get every tiny little fragment off, when I zoom in real tight like I do in the premieres, like this, all of a sudden I'll say, hey, I missed that. Wait a second, I missed that. Hey, I missed that. What the heck? So, if you don't aim for detail, then you're really going to miss even more than I miss. And I don't miss a lot. So, after all the work is done, after that presser foot bar and sleeve and the needle bar and all that is spick and span, Mr. Bean distracted me and then quickly posed with the dental tool that he didn't even touch and said, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Look at what a great job I did. Look at how shiny they are. Where'd you get those Q-tips? Did you clean your ears, Mr. Bean, or what? What do they say? There's no limit to what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. That's kind of the way I look at it. If the boys want to claim credit for work I do sometimes, that's okay. That's okay. Because everybody loves the boys. And there I'm using a special oil that has some kerosene in it. It's got some other stuff in it as well to really coat the parts that have been stripped. Because as soon as you strip metal, it becomes vulnerable to rust and varnishing unless you coat it with something. So I'm going through that process right now, also lubricating all the pivot points in the faceplate as well. Herr Obermeister on the top of the game. Up there just kind of keeping an eye on things and being there as a source of inspiration for me. Thank you, Herr Obermeister. Vielen Dank. There, we're just looking at another angle of the machine. Continue to plug away on things. You can kind of see the busyness of the workbench there. A lot of things happening simultaneously. I've said that before. Once you get to a certain level of experience, you don't work on a singular thing. You work on multiple things that depend on each other. Mr. Bean up there, being the good supervisor that he is, watching as I service part of the presser foot assembly. I think Herr Obermeister was behind him getting ready to push him off, but I can't say that for sure. Let's take a look at that again. That's worth spinning back to real quick. Oh yeah, yep, I see Herr Obermeister's hands coming out. He's getting ready to shove Mr. Bean right off the top of there because he's not doing anything anyway.
Yeah, I hope you can land soft there, my friend. Hope you can land soft. There's Captain Smith, kind of checking out the raceway area as I'm starting to deep clean that area as well. The brain center of the sewing machine, the raceway area. Continue to work on stuff, digging all that stuff out. Again, you can't just use canned air. Canned air is not going to do it, folks. It's not going to do it. There's so many parts in there in the raceway area to service that have to be cleaned, stripped. Some have to be lubricated. Some have to be free of lubricant. And all of that is critical. Plus, the 401A requires some disassembly to do it properly, as you'll see. Now we're going to take out the bobbin case and part of the hook system. And there's the bare bones right there of the nerve center. The central nervous system of the sewing machine, where all the magic happens, if it's operating properly. And again, this level of servicing is well beyond what a local service center would do. It simply is. Just more detailed cleaning. Looks like I'm working on the feed dogs there. Again, if you just brush off feed dogs, you leave a lot of stuff behind. A lot of stuff. And these are the little pistons, for lack of a better description, little pistons that push that throat plate up and pull it back down again. And they inevitably have service issues with them, because it's basically a vertical well and everything in the environment will get stuck in there and prevent them from functioning properly. And there's a raceway that's starting to look like it's supposed to. Starting to look really good. Starting to look even better. And there's part of the bobbin case hook system that requires a lot of specialized servicing. And I think there I'm just holding a nasty looking Q-tip to show you some of the gunk that I got off of some of those parts. That's, yeah, along with the band leveler that keeps the hook system orientated correctly. Oh, actually missing some of that there. And now, just like the upper tension, it's critical when you tear something apart that you put it back together properly, if you've serviced it properly, that is, so that it functions at the top of its game. Here, just working more on detail cleaning. Part of the mounting structure of the feed dogs, very filthy. Also, every screw and bolt on the machine, part of my inspection process is to make sure that they are tightened correctly. Some of them have to be torqued at a certain level. They cannot be over tightened or they will not function like some of the pivot points on the machine. So it's not a matter of ratcheting everything down and everything's good. It has to be tightened properly and torqued properly if it requires that. And now we're starting to work on the top of the machine near the cam stack. This is the main drive shaft for the machine. And you can see I'm beginning to break down the rust and the varnishing and getting all of those parts clean like they're supposed to be. That's really starting to come together now. You can actually see the brightness of the metal coming back, where before it was just a coated mess. It was just a coated mess with varnishing and all kinds of dirt and gook. There's that pivot, it's basically like a flapper plate that allows the cams to change their mode, and it has to pivot, and right now it's being inhibited by all the buildup on it. But a 401A has a very complex cam system and the adjoining parts that will activate that cam. Now here on the left you can see where all the the buildup and junk is still on there. Here on the right, I've already started to impact that, and you can see the true color of what those cams are supposed to be. And true color means that they're clean and that they're going to function as they should. Also on the top of the cam stack as well, there's a number of service points there. Particularly this area right here where the plastic cam snapped on, like I showed you in the premiere today. Lots of detailed cleaning, rust mitigation, dirt mitigation, down deep into the machine, and that's the beauty of having the tools that I have, so I can get into those spaces and not just ignore them. Part of the light assembly on the front, process of, again, checking, finalizing wiring, checking cleaning, checking contact points, and just making it free of dirt and grime. You can see on that cosmetic pad there, or cotton swab, whichever it is, looks like a cosmetic pad. Just all the junk. And look at behind there in those magnetic trays, all the parts that still have to go back onto the machine on the left-hand side of the screen. And there goes the old, and in comes the new. And I know that that's going to make a huge difference for Gloria. That LED light versus the old incandescent. And now I've got the confidence that that lighting assembly is all good to go as well, so that it's safe and it's going to function properly. Now there's a shot kind of looking across the top of the machine with all of those components, and you can see all of those spots before that were covered in varnishing, in veneer, in rust, in dirt, in grime, have all been properly cleaned and are all lubricated if they need to be lubricated, and they're going to function exactly as you saw them do in the premiere today. There's a cam stack that is standing tall, looking good. That's the way a cam stack should look versus how it looked before. Now we're concentrating on that little well over there that is so essential, because that's the power center. The power is sent up from that vertically mounted motor. The worm gear that comes off the stack of that motor interlaces with the worm gear and the grooves on the balance wheel, and all of that has to be functioning properly and properly cleaned. And it is a process. It's not one fell swoop. It takes multiple stages, as you'll see. There we're starting to really make a dent. And the dirt never shows up well enough on those in the shots. I wish it did. But that thing was just saturated in gook that came out of that well. Starting to look a little bit different, isn't it, from where we started? Starting to look a little bit different. And like the brain center by the raceway, this is so critical, because anything holding back that power coming up from that motor below, whether it's the inside of the grooving, or whether it's that interlacing worm gear that's a part of the balance wheel assembly, anything that holds it back is going to steal away power. And we certainly didn't have any power issues at all with Gloria's machine today. I was using probably around 20% power even at the peak moments. A lot of reserve power. You can see all the filth we're getting off of it on those Q-tip swabs. We're almost there, but we still have to take off the balance wheel, because there's more that we couldn't get to that's on the other side of that drive stack on the inside well, where the balance wheel is covering it right now. So we have to go after that too. But first of all, we're going to show you another shot of that beautiful mechanical field on top of Gloria's machine. Doesn't that look gorgeous? That looks gorgeous. And it's not just about appearance, but it's about function as well. And there we're looking at the side balance wheel. We're looking at the clutch retainer and everything else, and all of that is super filthy as well. You can see all the dirt and grime built up in there. On here as well, that should be bright, shiny. Inside of here, it's all filthy. And as you look at this balance wheel, it's not simply a slide-it on type balance wheel. There's so many components to that balance wheel because of the direct drive system. And there's some very specific servicing that has to be done to that. Very specific. Out of sight, out of mind. There's the well behind the balance wheel that has an open chamber into the other chamber that we already cleaned by the interlacing worm gears and the stack that comes off of the motor. And all of that stuff has to be taken care of. Look at all that filth and buildup in there. There you can actually see the worm gear that comes off the stack of that motor on the on the outer side on the right there. And you're going to see how it's all interconnected. You can't treat one without the other. You've got to treat all of it, which takes more time, but it's the only way to do it properly. More cleaning, and you can actually start to see the shine on the back chamber of that area now where all that varnishing, dirt, gook, and grime is cleaned out. Got to zoom in on that. That pad just really tells a story. Gives you an idea of how filthy that is. Look at that. It's actually got not just filth, but chunks. Chunks that I've been able to break off of there. And you can look inside of there and see the difference already. And we're not even done yet. How's that look? A little bit better. Yeah. A little bit better. A lot better. And that is the last picture on that series. I have one more series to show you. And I know this takes a little bit extra time, but it really is critical. I didn't mean to enlarge that, but that's kind of cool. Shows you even clearer the difference before or after. And now the boys have come on the scene and they're like, hey, it's almost time for a party. It's almost time for a premiere. You're reaching the finish line, Scott. You're reaching the finish line. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. They've all come out so we can celebrate all the work that I did. They are very good cheerleaders, though. They encourage me quite a bit. And Herr Obermeister, he does his best. I mean, considering his hands don't move much. All right. Just got another swig of soda, which probably is going to mess my voice up. Boy, did it taste good. So what is the proof in the pudding? You've heard me say that in a lot of premieres. The proof in the pudding is we go through all of those stages of servicing the machine, but it ultimately comes down to what is that needle going to do? What is it going to produce? Well, that's about as close to perfection as you get on those decorative stitches. And you saw them again during this premiere. I showed you what I had done as far as the off-camera stitch offs. That's them right there. And I am really particular when it comes to the presentation of the stitching. And you can look at that. I'll kind of take my hand off the camera. There's some debate, you know, could you make them tighter? Could you go higher into that fine region on the stitching and make the stitching even tighter and more defined? Yep, I could do that. But it's not what I did on this sew-off. I was concentrated on refining the stitches and making sure that that cam stack was functioning exactly as it should be doing. That was my goal. And even Herr Obermeister said, "Yeah, sehr gut, sehr gut. That's how she looks. That's how she should look, Scott. Good job, good job." But there's even a little bit more cleaning after all that. This is a little chamber just below the balance wheel. And there's an adjusting screw on there that has to be cleaned and checked as well. They were looking at that area that we just cleaned right there. This is that chamber for the balance wheel right there that's adjacent to the motor assembly that comes off the stack. And everything is starting to look exactly as it should now. Everything is starting to look exactly as it should. Except you can't even see me cleaning there. Was ist los? There we go. And you might be saying, well, is that it? I mean, is servicing a machine cleaning? That's a big part of it. But there's certainly a lot of things. As I've said, the pictures that I share, as many as they are, it's only the tip of the iceberg as far as the servicing process of doing mechanical adjustments and a number of the other things that have to be done to the machines to get them sewing at the top of their game. And now I'm working on the cosmetic of it. I want to send back a machine to Georgia, to Gloria, that's going to really, really look beautiful, and she can be proud of it, because it had a lot of crud built up on it before. And that's kind of what I'm focused on now. The final touches. The final touches. A lot of service points in that assembly right there for the balance wheel. Oh my gosh. And you can see that one still needs a fair amount of attention. Fair amount of attention. See all that? Any of that stuff in the grooving is going to create drag and slow the machine down. Steal power away, which we do not want. Inside of the balance wheel, just more detailed cleaning. You see that area's been cleaned in the middle, but the outer wells are still pretty dirty. And some of those areas are easier to reach with a brush and solvent, so that's what I do. That's the way it should look. That's the way it should look. And all the components of the balance wheel assembly. Plus over here you can kind of see the little field of Q-tips. I do buy Q-tips in bulk because I go through a lot of them. A lot of them. There we've reassembled it, and it functions perfectly as it should. And then I got to this little point of seeing this obnoxious sticker that the service point, I think it was in Pennsylvania, had stuck on Gloria's machine, and I was like, oh no, that's not going to work. I want to see that pillar from the back. I want it to be sexy. I want it to be streamlined. I want it to be clean. And it's going to take a little bit of effort. I would say a lot of effort, actually, because that stickum, if you've ever dealt with stickum, it's very persistent. And you got to be real mindful that you can't be aggressive, because then you're going to damage the patina. So you got to take it really slow, really, really slow. Starting to work it free, work it free. And you may not be able to see it in the shop, but that's all that gummy, sticky glue still on there, so we got to get that off too. Step by step by step. And the finish line. It's great when you get to that point, isn't it? Doesn't that look better than where we started? And if you're real observant, you already noticed Captain Smith in the upper corner there, looking on with approval. I think it's approval. It might be. And now we've got to do all the final steps of making sure that that machine is optimized, which includes lubricating worm gears with my special pink grease. And detail cleaning up in that area where we kept opening the top of the plate to put those cams in and stuff. Don't leave any dirt behind. You might miss a little bit, but get the majority of it. Really go after it hard and heavy. More detail cleaning. And more detail cleaning, including that top thread guide that comes almost immediately after you come off with the spool when you're threading the machine. And there's the after, looking a lot better. There's the top of the 401A, Gloria's 401A. And I'm just kind of showing the machine, you know, a lot of cleanup on it, a lot of servicing, a lot of adjustments, and we're almost there. We're almost there. We're so close. So close. There's that little door with the threading diagram, Dr. Singer. And here, just doing more detail cleaning. It looks like right now I'm cleaning the magnifying lens that comes off of the light assembly. So that, I mean, you can put an LED bulb in the light, and if you leave all of the rest of the components of that light assembly filthy, you're going to lose a good portion of the benefits of having that LED light. So that's what I'm doing right now, is making sure that that LED light has every opportunity to give Gloria maximum visibility down at the needle and on the bed. There's a little magnifying lens right there that kind of focuses the light down by the needle in the bed. Mr. Bean is studying it, going, yeah, I could have done that. I could have done that. I could have cleaned that, but, you know, I got Scott. He'll do it. He'll do it. The boys are giving me advice right now on lining it up properly, because you have to kind of wiggle it into position. It fits in there real tight, which it should. And that's part of the reason it's a closed chamber. You want to limit stuff getting in there and getting that lens all filthy again. Dr. Singer has joined a little bit to look on with final approval. Everything is spick and span, ready to go, adjusted, running optimally. And we are on the brink of doing a premiere. A premiere that we're doing right now. Hello. There, Herr Obermeister, being a go-getter like he is, has the throat plate. Thank goodness. I thought we had lost it. He found it. No, I knew where it was. He's just handing it to me. Thank you, Herr Obermeister. And now, everyone, including I almost said Reggie White. Is that right? Been a long day. Yeah, Reggie. Including Reggie White, everybody has joined into the fun now of the final scene of Success. See, there's Reggie right there. What do you got, Reggie? Oh, you got two of the cams. Attaboy. Attaboy. There we go. We are on the brink of doing this premiere. That's what we do. Attaboy, Reggie. He is strong. Those are pretty heavy. Oh, that's right. Now we're focusing on the bottom. On the bottom of the machine too, because there's a lot of service points down there. Plus the motor has to be inspected. Motor brushes have to be replaced. And dirt and grime and varnishing and rust and everything else have to be dealt with. Amazing. All the stuff with gravity working works its way down there eventually. See how filthy those are? Plus they're bone dry. That's what I was pointing at right there. And those are critical worm drive gears that transfer power and energy straight down to the main shaft that feeds into the raceway. How do you think they're functioning when they're bone dry like that and you're getting metal slapping against metal and you have all that varnishing oil buildup and all the other junk on there? They're dragging immensely. If you had seen how slow and how labored this 401A was running when I first started servicing it, you would just be like, holy mackerel. It's crazy. Gloria could certainly speak to that, because I checked it out right when it came in the workshop and it was struggling. Herr Obermeister there checking some of the other service points near the raceway, giving me some recommendations, which I'm grateful for. Now look at it there. Take a look at all of that area. Look at it before. Does that look different? Before? After? That's impact. That's what this workshop is dedicated to bringing to every machine that we're entrusted with that comes in here. Impact. Doing it right, not doing it haphazardly. Now we're focused on the other side of the machine, and we're going after those other critical service points. You can see the dental tool right up here. I'm just trying to, some of that stuff gets so crystallized you have to kind of chip away at it. And here Obermeister kind of checking things again. We've made a good impact. It's really starting to come around, starting to look like it should look, which means it's going to function as it's supposed to function. It's not going to be stressing that motor with all that additional drag that it was experiencing before. It's going to run very fast and very fluid. I can't even imagine hitting this thing at 100%. Holy cow. Gloria, if you want to just, get your seatbelt on and give that foot controller a punch, kiddo, but you better be ready for it, because it is going to run like the wind blows. See how clean those are now? All that junk and all that gook, all that varnishing, some rust and everything else that had to be taken off of there. And that's what I've said before. You can't just throw new grease on a dirty field. You've got to clean that field first. Now we're starting to put that special grease on there so that those worm gears are no longer punching into each other with no cushion. Those worm gears are going to be running now at the top of their game, as they should be, with actually better lubrication and better fluidity than when it left the factory, because they do not put that specialized grease on there at the factory. So these parts are going to be just flying. Working it into this worm gear cluster as well, just below the raceway area. Now we're inspecting the motor. The motor is something that really is ignored quite a bit on these Slant-O-MATIC machines, because it's a little bit hard to get to it. And you've seen me in other premieres and other posts on Facebook where I will actually, if I see something symptomatic that causes me concern, I remove the entire motor assembly out of that machine and strip it down. This one had some issues, but I was able to mitigate them from this vantage point. You can see here the commutator is real filthy. Commutator, excuse me. Been a long day. And there's after the commutator field is cleaned. And you've got the copper to a point where that electrical field is going to be maximized with the brush assemblies and everything else. Working again, just deep cleaning. Foot controller had some major things going on with it, and Gloria had told me about that. She said there's some major issues. It was missing pieces, it was filthy, it needed a lot of attention, but I was determined to try to preserve it for her, because the work that I had to put into it to preserve it would cost less than replacing the components that it needed otherwise. See what I'm saying? Look at that. And before the electricity can reach the motor, it has to flow through here. I think you get the idea. Not to mention, if a foot controller is to this level of filthiness with all the buildup in there, it can also be a fire hazard too. Detail cleaning. Critical cleaning. And that's at a point where most people would never think. You get a lot of oxidation buildup on surfaces that are made out of copper, including the plug-in points. And on the 401A, there are two critical plug-in points. There's obviously this one we're looking at right now that plugs into the power source, but there's also a plug-in for the foot controller as well that has copper contacts, as you'll see, that have to be cleaned as well. And again, copper is a very soft metal. You've got to do it in a very intentional, specific, gentle way. Here we're starting to get all the grime and gook out of there. Starting to actually see the color of the inner case of the foot controller again. And also servicing the other critical points on the foot controller also. These are basically the regulators of the foot control on each side. And if those have buildup on the either side, it's going to affect the how fluid and how balanced that foot controller is in regulating speed. Oh, you can't even see it. My shot's too low. Sort of you can see it, yeah. Well, you can see right now I'm working on one of those regulators right here. There are a lot of service points inside of the foot controller, including on these Bakelites, the carbon stacks as well. And I showed that a while back, how to service the carbon stacks, because they start to develop carbon dust buildup in them, and then the foot controller starts to run hotter and hotter and hotter, which is another key service point on there. More service points. And now we're putting that foot controller back together. And again, when it came, it was missing a number of internal components and exterior components as well, like these rubber boots, so that it wasn't sitting level on the floor, obviously, for Gloria. She was trying to use it if she did. Now we're focusing on just cleaning the outside of the foot controller as well. We don't leave any dirt behind. Kind of like don't leave a man behind. Don't leave a woman behind. And we're mitigating all of that dirt and filth. Now the boys are having another party. They love parties. So here we're celebrating. Okay, we're finally done. We're really done this time, because Scott pulled a little whammy on us with more service points that we hadn't remembered that had to be serviced, as we had our last little celebration where you saw Reggie with the cams on his arms and everything. Now we are finally at the finish line. And the next step is exactly what we're doing today, which is this exciting moment. You see how excited the captain is. Look at him. Look at his face. Yeah, he's excited. The next step now is the premiere, which we just am finishing up. Everything comes in stages. Everything, you can't cheat one for another, because then you end up compromising. So, and I appreciate you hanging in there. I mean, it's a long process in Premiere, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it. And I'm so excited to be able to pan back now and look at that 401A already having just proven itself to the world that she is ready to get the job done for Gloria down in Georgia. And she is ready to deliver perfection down at the needle. That's really what we're aiming for. So between these cam stitch offs and everything else that we did, we went from this which is what Gloria was getting, to this. Oh, I guess that'd be helpful. Let's try that again. I shut that off because of the reflection on the computer screen. So a little bit of a dramatic change from where she was at to where she's at. And then we demonstrated the power, quality of stitching with this genuine elk hide. And all these other ones, I'm kind of taking them out of order, but all these ones I did off camera to get the machine perfectly tuned and running at the top of her game. And then finally we did this field of sewing here that is just like, what? Whoops, maybe hold it like that, probably easier. This field of sewing right here that we did with all of this cam output, whether it was primary or whether it was combination or whether it was cam generated, plastic cam generated. A lot of these are all internal. That is the sign of success right there. That's what makes it all worthwhile. Well, that nap doesn't make it worthwhile. That makes it like, wait, what'd you do? What happened? What? But it's great to get to this stage, isn't it? And I'm just so excited for Gloria. I know that she's going to have a blast with this 401A, which again was, when was the 401A made? I'm trying to remember. Type it in the chat if you remember. I know we've had a long premiere, but I've been doing all the talking. You've been sitting there listening. So if you remember, type it in the chat when the 401A was made. I'll give you 3 seconds. Countdown from 3, 2, 1. 1956 to 1961. What about this machine to the left? The 404. 1958 to 1963. What about the 403? 1958 to 1960. What about that really cool... Oh man, we're off the screen. What about that really cool 503A? What about that one? 1961 to 1963, just like its brother, the 500A, 1961 to 1963. And then finally, our originals, the 301, 301A, the 301, 1952, that's it. 301A, Roz's machine on the right, 1953 to 1957. So, that's the good stuff, folks. The information we share, the knowledge we gain, and seeing that it all matters. Because we end up getting a machine like this that is ready to get it done. And with that, let's wrap this up. And if you're saying, does he still have those cool green glasses on? Yeah, I do. Where'd you go? I'm just kidding. All right, y'all take care. Hope you have a great Christmas holiday season. I really do. I hope that you have great time with family and friends, that you count your blessings, of which there are many, misfortunes, of which there are few. And remember, the greatest prize in life is working hard at work worth doing. That's what I do here at the workshop every single day. And I am honored to be able to serve you. So thank you for all of you that have taken the time in 2020 to send your machines from wherever they've been sent to come here to the workshop so that they can leave running at the top of their game. And you can get a greater level of enjoyment out of them than you ever would have otherwise. That's the difference right there. All right, God bless. I'm signing off. And give yourself a pat on the back, and you all get automatic A's for the class because you stuck it out this long. Take care.